All right, how's everybody doing? I am MrNoobTubeGamer, and I am joined by BulletBarry, and I'm going to do a little interview with him and ask him some questions that are gaming related. And yeah, it should be fun. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm BulletBarry. I've actually spoken with NewTubeGamer before. If you guys have seen his channel or mine, you might already know that. He and I went through some struggles, but remained friends through adversity. I wanted to ask you the first question, if I may. I know this is my interview, but I did have a question for you, just so people knew. Last you made a video, you said you were done with YouTube for now, and may revise your channel. I wanted to ask you, for the viewers, because I already know, what channel are you turning into?
So I don't know if you've noticed, but I've actually been uploading a few videos lately. I've returned to YouTube as of last week, and I'm starting to like shift away from the whole anti-PC console king bullshit character that I did.
Right.
And I'm gonna try to, steer into more, I guess, serious content, and I'm going to actually share my actual opinion on things and things that are actually important, not which box is better than the other, if
Right.
that makes sense.
Yes. When you told me that over Twitter messages, I actually thought there was a really cool direction for your channel to go, especially with the character you were working on. He kind of died off a little bit. He was great. I actually very much enjoyed the videos you made, but I like the direction you're going. So I just wanted to make that clear for everybody out there who's going, what? Why are you even talking to NoobTube? He's a good guy. That's all I gotta say. He's fun to talk to. He's fun to watch, and I'm interested to see how his content is going to change. So
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of positive feedback from people, which is pretty shocking considering my history. I don't know if you've seen some of my more popular videos, but some videos have gotten like 20 likes and over 1,000 dislikes. Like, it's insane.
mhm.
But the newest videos I've gotten have actually gotten like a fair amount of likes over dislikes. Like the one of the more popular videos I made lately, it was on Sony's refusal to do cross-platform play, which I will actually talk to you about later.
Perfect.
And that video got about 35 likes and 7 dislikes, which I'm sure you know for my channel is pretty good, and it's a good step in the right direction.
Yeah, it was kind of rare for your channel to outweigh likes for dislikes. So
Yeah, you know what got me back into YouTube, actually? It wasn't my passion or anything like that, that I just decided to make a video. What made me go back to YouTube was that shitty fucking Bethesda conference. So here's the first question I'm going to ask you. What were your overall thoughts on E3? Were there any of your favorite moments that you want to talk about, or any terrible moments that you'd like to discuss? What are your overall thoughts on E3?
okay, so this is probably going to disappoint you. I never ever watch E3. I've always seen snippets after they were over, but I've never, and it's kind of on purpose that I do this. I don't like to hype myself because every time I actually have, I've always been disappointed. And I almost let myself do this with No Man's Sky. I've let myself do this with Ubisoft games countless times, and I always disappointed myself. So when it comes to E3, I just wait till the stuff comes out, and that's kind of when I make my decisions. So I'm very sorry to do that, but I am curious. What was it about the Bethesda? I heard that it was really underwhelming. Like they didn't have much to.
Yeah, yeah, that was the main problem. They, not too many third-party publishers besides EA and Ubisoft. They're the only ones besides Bethesda that actually have their own standalone press conferences, right? So it's very underwhelming for Bethesda to go out and have a press conference when they have nothing new to offer. They have Wolfenstein and Evil Within 2. I'm not trying to knock on those games. I'm not trying to say those games are bad, because those were the only new games that were revealed. But do you really think that those games are worthy of a whole press conference? I don't think so.
Right. So it was kind of like what like why are you even here? Like let's move on to stuff that's not a waste of time.
Yeah, it was such a fucking waste of time, man. So what happened when that press conference happened? My internet went out. So this is a crazy story, actually. So you know how like outside of your house is where like the cables are set up, right, for like internet and TV and shit?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So part of that cable, someone actually went outside of my house and stole it. So my internet was down. My internet and cable was down for like a few days, and I didn't know what the fuck happened until I called Optimum, which is the company that I'm with, right? And I called them, and they didn't know what the hell was going on, and then they came over, and they knew right away what the problem was. Like, yeah, someone actually stole part of the cable, and I'm like, what? So there's a point to this story, though. So I was like disappointed because it was a Sunday night, and two things I was looking forward to that night was the new episode of Fear the Walking Dead, which is a good show. I think you should check that out. It's a really good show. And the Bethesda E3 conference. I was really disappointed. I was missing both of those, but I had a shitty 4G connection because all my data ran out for the month, and the data was slowed down.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, you know what? I'm determined. I don't care how shitty and slow the connection is. I don't care if it's in 144p. I'm gonna fucking watch this press conference live. So that's what I fucking did. And man, it was so bad. Like it kept lagging and skipping and shit. But man, I don't know why I went through so much trouble to watch it, and I was very disappointed when I found out that they didn't really offer anything new. There was a rumor, I don't know if you heard the rumor, that they were going to announce a new IP that was not Elder Scrolls or Fallout, but it was in the same style, you know, like Bethesda open world RPG, you know, that kind of thing.
Right, the only game they know how to make.
Pretty much. The other games that they have, it's just stuff that they bought. Like they bought id Software, you know, that's where Doom comes from and shit. They just, you know, those other games most people don't really care about though. But Bethesda game, they were announcing. The rumor was that they were announcing a game called Starfield, which was supposed to be a kind of like a Mass Effect, except in the style of a Bethesda game. And everyone was so hyped about it, like, yeah, this is coming, and obviously it never came. Because where the rumor came from is that Bethesda filed a trademark for Starfield, so people assumed that was going to be their next game. But who knows at this point? They announced Fallout 4 VR and Skyrim VR and Doom VR and all this other VR crap. But, I mean, I know you're a big fan of VR, and we will talk about that very soon. But most people, you have to admit, the general consumer isn't very interested in VR. Like, at least 90% of gamers have no interest in it or do not have access to it. So, what do you see the future of VR? Do you think Fallout 4 VR and Skyrim VR and you know, these AAA studios making VR ports of their game, do you see that going anywhere? Like, how do you see VR like 5 years from now compared to right now?
You know, okay, so this is where I differ from a lot of different people. I think when it comes to VR, it seems to be a place where people like indie developers are kind of shining right now. If you buy yourself an HTC Vive and you go onto the store, the ones you'll probably love the most, the games you'll probably love the most, are either from Valve or from indie developers. Which, I mean, really, do you have much of another choice? But at least as far as I go, I've compared them to Sony's response to VR, and Microsoft's coming out with their HoloLens. And as far as I've been able to see myself, it seems like VR is probably not going to be something that the AAA developers grab onto as much. I mean, it's already such a niche, you know. You got this $800 product, you know, up to $800 product. You have to have a computer that sports at least a 970, which by itself is a $300 card. Well, maybe not anymore with Pascal. It's probably maybe $100 on eBay or something. You could probably get it for.
Well, I'm sure what people are going to say is that over the years, obviously the technology will be cheaper and it will be a lot easier for the general consumer to be able to access. Like, it won't be $800 forever. It'll go down eventually, right?
Right. That's a very valid point, and I definitely agree with that. I don't know. I don't know if I see, because I think that a big aspect of gaming is comfort. I think that people being able to come home and sit down at their computer or get on their console and grab a controller and play their games. I mean, it's such a putting this heavy, thing on your head every day. It's a great party device. Like the Wii console was a great party device. I think that's exactly what this thing's going to be. I don't know. I don't know if the future of VR is going to be as hardcore as the gaming market that we see today, and it seems to be scaring a lot of developers away too. Like I don't see a ton of developers jumping on at the moment. I mean, I know Sony is scrambling really hard, to promote theirs, and I deeply appreciate that because you get to the console market, and more people know about it. It's not a niche. It's not as much a niche anymore. VR's been something we've wanted since we've seen Star Trek. I think it's going to be something that intrigues people, but especially for people like me who have motion sickness, it alienates people in a lot of ways as well. So I just
I was gonna talk about that. I was gonna say that me personally, there are two issues with VR at this moment. One, that the kinks aren't completely there's still many technological issues with VR. Like the technology isn't perfected yet. You have the issue of motion sickness and all these other issues that are associated with VR. And that's one problem that I think they have right now. They still aren't completely there yet. It's not like the technology is perfected and that the only problem they have is that it's too expensive. They still have some, technical problems that need to be resolved. And another issue I was going to talk about was the fact that at this moment, there's really no reason for someone to get VR, even if they had the funds, even if it was something they were interested in. The actual games are just like pretty much shovelware. Like, remember, I mean, we were both around 10 years ago. You remember the hype around the Wii and the hype around motion gaming and people saying that was going to be the future. But with the Wii and even the Kinect, years later, and the PlayStation Move, all these motion control gaming devices, most of the games that were, utilizing their technology weren't actually rewarding gaming experiences. They were just gimmicky shovelware crap that was just, it's not good quality. Most of the VR games you see aren't very good quality. So I want to, what do you think about what I've been saying?
I can say that you're not wrong. But at least when it comes to the HTC Vive, it was put on a platform that was already infested with shovelware. If you look in 2016, 40% of Steam's cache of video games, 40% was uploaded in 2016, that's insane to think. And a lot of it was shovelware because it's so easy to put a game on Steam. So it's obvious. I mean, it's likely that when you're on the same platform, you're going to have the same developers who make these shovelware put it on the on this new system that everyone wants to get their hands on. So I mean, that to me seems to be expected. But yeah, I definitely see what you're getting at. However, of the games I've played, and I've seen some really good teams. I mean, I don't know if you watch Rick and Morty, but the developers of the TV show are huge into VR right now. And they're getting some games out there. They're voice acting for as many games as they can. There are free ones that they put. They've even put a Rick and Morty VR game on there. And I've heard that it's fantastic. I have yet to play it, and I cannot wait. Valve themselves are working on VR games, free ones. So it seems like really good developers are getting involved. Again, even Sony and Microsoft are trying to get involved, which gives me hope. But yeah, you're right about what I said about indies. You're really always going to have, especially, I can't say as much for the Oculus Rift, because that one's a little more closed environment. But when you have an open environment like Steam, like Valve offers, you kind of going to get that problem you just addressed, and that's a very valid point.
Yeah, so talk about the PlayStation VR for a second, because it's kind of more of I guess, a less impressive VR system than the HTC Vive, obviously.
Right.
But I think one thing they're doing right is that it's, it's more geared towards the general consumer than these other products are. They're cheaper and they're more easy to use than these other, the HTC Vive or any other VR systems out there. So what do you think overall about the PlayStation VR?
Okay, so this is not coming from my experience, but my brother's. The thing so this first part is for me. The thing I noticed about the PlayStation VR was that it felt more like a good first impression. I love that Sony wanted to get involved. And again, same with Microsoft. I love that they want to get involved because there is a huge console gaming market in America. And that's where America being a first world country, that's where a lot of people have money to get on board with these smaller ideas that want to get big and want to become no longer the niche, but the standard. However, I think that it wasn't what is PlayStation's, what is it called? The VR headset? PlayStation VR, is it called something else?
Yeah, no, that's the name, PlayStation VR.
Okay. I think the problem was not the headset. I think it's actually a really well-made headset. I think the problem was the initial PlayStation 4 itself wasn't powerful enough to output games at a frame rate that was comfortable for a lot of gamers, and this is where the motion sickness thing comes in. My brother has never been motion sick a day in his life. He can play games at stuttery frame rates. He can ride in cars and read a book, and I've always envied him because I can't do either of those things. However,
neither can I.
Right. However, when he played on the PlayStation VR, and he'd never played VR before, he almost threw up. I don't think that was its fault because Sony was saying we want to strive to make every game for our VR machine at 120 FPS, which is more than Valve is doing. I think one of the biggest benefits of a upgraded PlayStation 4 Pro is that it will potentially be able to run these games, and it can be the VR machine. If you're looking into getting VR, I just do not recommend doing it on the original PlayStation 4. I heard David saying with my brother, he was getting 30, 40 to 60 FPS, which is just not high enough for VR.
No, absolutely not. So we've been kind of having a conversation about the future of gaming, and I want to continue that conversation with a few more questions related to it. So I'm sure you're very much aware of the PlayStation 4 Pro and the newly announced Xbox One X. And I'm sure you're also aware of the fact that new games such as Destiny 2 and the new PS4 exclusive Spider-Man game are only capable of running at 30 frames per second on these new 2017 consoles. So, people are saying that, it's going to bridge the gap between generations. I don't see that happening because one of the main complaints over this generation isn't necessarily the resolution as much as it's always been the frame rate.
Right.
That the frame rate's not steady, So I think it's honestly, it's not a good sign that these games aren't capable of running at 60 frames, and these consoles, the PS4 Pro was just released last year, barely a year old, and the Xbox One X isn't even released yet, and it's already been revealed that Destiny 2 is only going to be at 30 frames. So I don't buy the whole fact that these consoles are going to, make this generation last longer. I think 2018, 2019 is when these new consoles are going to come out, like actual new consoles, like the PS5 and whatever the hell. The way it's going, I can't see this generation lasting too much longer. So what are your overall thoughts on those systems in particular? And additionally, what do you see the 9th generation of consoles being, as in the PlayStation 5?
So I think it's really strange that Sony and Microsoft, and they had the same idea here, which is also really weird. It was like they're talking to each other the entire time. I think it was kind of strange that they decided to take this staircase approach where they release one console, give it 2 years, release another one that's a little more powerful, give it 2 years, release another. I thought that was really weird because I feel like it alienates a lot of the consumers. There are people with the first Xbox One, and they're like, no, this is fine for me. But then you buy the brand new one, and let's say you're the guy with the original, I'm the guy with the brand new one, and we have the same games, mine just look a little better. I have a 4K TV that I can play mine on. Mine run supposedly at 60 FPS. So I'm getting those benefits, but really other than that, what did I spend that money for? Especially if I had the original Xbox One. It's kind of weird because they said, yes, we're going to keep coming out with these intervals that give these machines more power, but we're going to shoot ourselves in the foot and not release games exclusively to these because they're the same. So you're pretty much fine just buying our old console that is now only $150. Unless you want the 4K, unless you want the 60 F. But then, if they're not going to be able to give you that 60 FPS, which is half the reason you would upgrade, well, then you got a problem. So not only are you alienating them, you've misled them. These are your consumers, and you can't do that. You know, I mean, maybe you can. Maybe there's so many people who are brainwashed to a point where that's fine, but it's just, it could simply be that the game was made initially for the original Xbox and the original PlayStation, and I'm talking about the two new ones that are being made right now, Spider-Man and Destiny, and they don't have access to the Xbox One X, so they didn't get to optimize for the hardware. It could easily be that, and then when the thing's released, we're going to be seeing games running at 4K at 60 FPS, no problem. They're going to be more than enough power to do so. It may happen. It's just...
Sorry, continue.
It's just so easy to think that Microsoft and both Sony and Microsoft would just do the same thing they've always done and promised a more powerful console, tell you it's going to be the best thing, and then you notice, well, wait a minute, the Xbox One or the PlayStation Pro, they're really not that different from each other.
They're not. So there was a funny tweet from Fringy. I don't know if you read it, but I thought it was pretty funny. He was saying that if you bought the Xbox One, Xbox One S, and now you bought the Xbox One X, don't complain to me that PC gaming's too expensive.
Yeah, I know, and I even said that. I'm another thing that, you know, shooting themselves in the foot. I mean, when you upgrade a computer, generally you'll pull out your graphics card. Let's say you had a $100 graphics card, right? And let's say you even slap in a 1080 Ti, so you just spent $600, right? But at least you got something new here. You're experiencing from that $100 card. You got the frame rates, you got the resolutions, and now you can add in mods, 4K texture mods. You have a kind of larger variety of things you can kind of do here, and you've only spent $600 one time. That card can last you as long as, God, I think a 1080 Ti probably lasts a few generations, at least console-wise, whereas 2 years, $500 each, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, especially since they're not too impressive over the current systems, like the old systems, the old PS4 and the old Xbox One. Yeah, it could do 4K, but you're getting the same frame rate, and it doesn't really seem like it's a good value. So there's just something I want to, a point I'm going to make, and I don't know if you're going to agree or disagree with this, but I feel like Sony, Microsoft, Valve, all of them, they're pretty bad at marketing to the other side. What I mean by that is that Sony and Microsoft, obviously the reason why they're making the Xbox One X and the PlayStation 4 Pro, they're trying to market to PC gamers. Those are really the people that they're trying to get, because PC gamers are the ones who care. You know, they put more emphasis on frame rate and graphics than the console gamers do. And I also think that Valve is pretty terrible at marketing to console gamers because, I mean, you remember the Steam machines? I don't.
No, God, they were just, yeah. No, I agree 100%. Like that whole thing was ridiculous. But yeah,
they're trying too hard to market to other groups of gamers, and it's just not working for them. I guess they're trying to make the generation last longer, but it's been a long time, believe it or not, since it's been 4 years already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't really know what the future holds for the next generation of consoles. People say that consoles are gonna die. I'm sure you and I both know that's not gonna happen. There's definitely gonna be a ninth generation of consoles. That's not even a question. But it's just a matter of what direction they're going in. Like, do you think ninth generation they're going to have underwhelming hardware like they did when the PS4 was announced? Because I remember during that PC versus console debate we had, you talked about like how you were almost baffled when you first heard about the PS4 specs, and this was in 2013. You're like, really? That's the next generation? Like, I remember that conversation we had, and I was thinking to myself, and I'm like, Do you think that they would really do that next generation? I mean, they're doing that already with these new consoles, but do you think that same mistake they're gonna make the same mistake as they did last generation? I'm not sure. They also have to worry about making it affordable because they're selling the Xbox One X at a loss. They're not making money off of the hardware itself. And that's what happened with the PS4. That's what happened with the PS4 Pro. That's what's happening with all of these consoles. They don't make money off of the hardware itself. The Microsoft and Sony have to rely on making money from software sales and all these other sales. And I think that's kind of why I think that Sony is doing what they're doing with cross-platform play. See how I segued into that? So I want to ask you, what are your overall thoughts on Sony refusing to do cross-platform play? I'm sure you're aware, Microsoft, Nintendo, PC, mobile, they're all on board cross-platform play with Minecraft and Rocket League as well. Nintendo Switch and Xbox One and PC players can all play together, but Sony's like backing away from that. They don't favor cross-platform play too much, and I think that's because they think that if they enable cross-platform play, that they'll be missing out on software sales and other sales that they can make. Because if Sony enables cross-platform play, then they feel like there's no reason for them to have for consumers to buy the PS4 version if you could just play with everyone. I think that's the real reason here as to why they backed away from it. But what do you think about Sony doing that? And what do you see the future is with cross-platform gaming?
Ever since I started my channel, I talked about how cross-platform gaming was something that I was striving to try to make happen. If in my own little way I could make that happen, I want that possibility. Because I think that segregating gamers to their different platforms is kind of one big thing that makes us hate each other for illogical reasons. You play on an Xbox and you're like, I'm better than you just because I can play with my Xbox friends and I like them more than I like your friends. Screw you, right? But then we all play together, we're all having fun. And that's just something I thought would really, really bridge a gap. I think it's ridiculous that Sony would opt out because it doesn't benefit them to do it. Even if they were scared of not being able to make that money on, let's say, a game like Minecraft. Minecraft is sold on every platform. Every brand new platform that comes out, Minecraft gets installed onto it. Everyone has bought it. Okay? Everyone has this game. So, with all of a sudden, me being able to say, hey, NoobTube, you want to play Minecraft? And you're like, yeah, let me get on my PS4. I was like, all right, I'll boot up my PC. There we go, we're playing. Or not PS4, Xbox, because, yeah, Sony. Right, let me get on my Xbox, and I'll be like, all right, let me get on my PC. We're playing Minecraft together, right? So then, now, who's going to want to purchase that game on Sony's system? Because they're going to, wait a minute, no, I want to play with my friend who's on the PC, and I can't do that because Sony's a little douchebag right now. So I think that they're shooting themselves in the foot right there. I don't actually see a logical reason that they would do that. Even if they think it would affect sales, it'd be better to jump on the same wagon that everybody else has jumped on. It's the smartest move.
Did you hear their official reason as to why they backed away from cross-platform play?
No, I did not.
They said that the reason why they're not doing cross-platform play, this is their official PR version, as to why they're backing away from it, is because they don't want Xbox players to be able to bully people on the PlayStation 4 and that Sony can't do anything about it.
Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous. Oh, one second. I had to let my dog out of my room. You can totally cut that part out of the video.
Yeah, I probably will.
Okay. So they don't want PlayStation gamers getting bullied by Xbox gamers and Sony not being able to do anything about it.
That's their official reason. They don't want people on the Xbox and PC to be able to bully kids or whatever, and that Sony can't take action. Because Sony can't ban Xbox players, obviously, so they feel like we can't control these players, so that's why we're not doing it. They're basically, the typical think of the children argument, that comes everywhere.
Yeah, no, that's ridiculous. And I have No, oh my god, it's the exact same thing. So a little bit ago on the Wii U, when the Wii U was being talked about, they're like, why can't we play? Why can't we talk to our friends in Splatoon? What the hell? And Nintendo said, we don't want people being mean to each other over the internet. But I mean, you got to understand, this is it's current year argument. Okay, we are going to be that way. Okay, the internet is what the internet is, and you don't need to get involved. I mean, how hard is it to have a mute button in your lobby? Every other game has
I know.
it. And
It's like, okay, so I don't mean to veer off of gaming,
Sure.
and I don't expect, I don't want, I don't want to like pressure you into, but let me just like say something. This is like beyond gaming. This problem, the fact that if anyone says anything, right, that's bad or that's offensive or distasteful, that the only solution is censorship and nothing else. There's no middle ground. There's no such thing as blocking people on Twitter. No, you have to censor them. There's no such thing as blocking someone on Facebook. No, you have to ban them and censor them. And it's just the same. This shit's not a gaming problem. It's just across across the board, that we have to censor people, that we can't control people, because that's what Sony wants to do. That's pretty much what they said. They said that we don't want Xbox players and PC players and even Nintendo players on because we can't control them. And I think that's very concerning to me.
Yeah, it is. It's it really sucks seeing all these companies too getting involved in that PC bullcrap. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, for sure, man.
It's ridiculous. Like, stay out of the business. Nobody cares if you care about censorship. Nobody cares what you just give us a product and we'll purchase it if we like it, okay? But you getting involved, that starts problems. I hate that. That is just, they shouldn't be involved.
Absolutely. I think that first-party exclusives, I don't think they should go anywhere. I think Sony and Microsoft and, of course, Nintendo should continue to promote exclusive games on their systems. But I think that they should, they shouldn't compete with each other in cross-platform game, like in third-party games. I think it's stupid. I think the whole timed exclusive thing with Destiny and Call of Duty, that's stupid. And the whole locking games to certain systems, like, I don't know if you've heard, but Quake Champions is going to be exclusive to PC, and there are other games that are exclusive. Like Titanfall 1 was only on the Xbox One and PC, and they didn't release it on the PS4. I think that whole model is stupid, and that's really anti-consumer. But I think cross-platform play, they'll still make their money. The way they compete with each other is through sales, through PlayStation Store sales and Xbox sales, and through exclusive games. I think that's how they really should compete with each other, not be like, oh, we have the best version of this third-party game. I just think that's stupid.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Especially, it alienates the consumer. I've been using that word a lot, but it like, that's just like the epitome of what they do. But it really alienates their consumers too. Because me as a consumer who has never played the first Destiny, I have no hype and no desire to pick up Destiny 2. Like, I have...
Don't worry, you didn't miss out on much.
Well, I've been told it's good. I've been told it's bad. I've been told many things about it. But even if I were to love it, I have no connection to it. And then having it called Titanfall, or not Titanfall, Destiny 2, I feel like if I purchase it, I'm missing a piece of something. So locking it to that console, what did you do? You've lost someone who would potentially purchase it because you did that. I mean, that's at least my way of thinking. I may be just one in a billion, but why?
No, for sure. That's exactly, I'm sure, how PlayStation players felt about Titanfall 2. This isn't just for PC players. It happens to all platforms. Sony and Microsoft cut deals with, certain companies, and they have timed exclusive content or just exclusive content overall for the same game, and it really sucks,
Yeah.
So, what are your overall thoughts on exclusive games, though?
Okay. I think that there was a long time ago when Sony and Microsoft, and actually it was way more than that. It was Atari, it was Sega, Nintendo. I mean, they all competed against each other, and they all wanted to make the most powerful system. They all wanted to have the best games. their first parties, they all wanted to have the most games too. So all the third parties, if that game doesn't go on my system, I'm gonna be upset. Like, that's wrong. That needs to go on my system because people need to be able to play every single game on my system and more. And Nintendo kind of stuck with that one. They're like the king of exclusives, like they've always been. We have them all. They're all the same, but we have them all. It seems
it's just hard to believe Nintendo used to be on top of the world.
right.
And now look at them. They're kind of like, they've had 2 bad generations in a row.
Yeah, some would argue more. But it seems almost lazy to me, and I my opinion is probably definitely going to differ from yours here, but it seems kind of lazy to me, especially when they get a third party who's in the middle of developing a game, and they say, hey, here's a couple $1,000,000, only put it on our platform. And then a lot of, PlayStation or Sony, or God, they're the same, or Xbox gamers, they're all like, oh my God, haha, we got this, this exclusive. That annoys the hell out of me. I can understand it 100% if Microsoft was like, hey, we made this game. This is our baby. We're going to put it just on our system. I totally understand that. I really...
So, do you feel that way with first-party exclusives? Do you really see a problem with it? Because you know how Sony, they fund a lot of the development costs for their exclusives. Do you really think it's a problem that they make it exclusive to their own system?
Well, no, I don't, because there are a lot of games that wouldn't come out without their help. I mean, they have a ton of money to throw, and I think, put it to good use a lot of the time. I just really do like the way that Microsoft says, however, we have multiple stores. We've opened shop in a couple different places, so they're like, yeah, we'll sell this on the Xbox, we're also going to sell this on the PC, and these are our exclusives. And I know Sony is, doing that to a tiny extent with their PlayStation Plus thing on the PC.
PlayStation Now.
Oh, it's Now. Okay, that's what it is.
But it's different because it's a streaming service. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't like it as much. I'm sure we'll.
And I don't see that as the future of gaming either, because gaming and the movie industry, they're 2 completely different industries, and I don't think mixing them together, thinking that the streaming subscription model works for every industry is just a foolish way of thinking.
I agree, and I definitely think that's... I don't know if we're gonna touch on that, but I really am in no support of that idea, especially from Sony to sit there and say, yeah, we're gonna give you our exclusive, we're just gonna do it in the laziest way possible. I think it's kind of a slap in the face a little bit.
Yeah, no, I made a video about exclusive games. I was talking about Quake Champions, and it's the new Quake game that Bethesda's coming out with this year. And people argue that, well, obviously the PC version is going to be superior, but you're not going to hear any argument from me on that. Because people are going to say, oh, well, the frame rate's not going to be as good, so the experience isn't going to be as good, and you have the controller as well. But I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, if you guys really want to bring back Quake, because Quake's been dead for 10 years now at least. So if you guys really want to bring back Quake, why not make it multi-platform? Because it would, bring the largest audience to that game, and it will really, they'll really make a shit ton of money, and you'll have a whole bunch of Quake fans. Imagine do you really think Overwatch would be as big as it is now if it was just on the PC or on one platform in particular? I don't think so, because Overwatch is a huge game. It's a huge part of gaming culture. And I think if it was just on one platform, that it wouldn't have been as successful as it is now. So I think, Blizzard understood that there's, a huge market in the console market. And I don't know why, but Valve isn't seeing it. And it's very interesting. Not Valve. Why did I say Valve? Bethesda. Bethesda's not seeing it. And I don't understand why, because, there's a lot of money to be made,
Yeah, well, Bethesda's a really weird one, in that they really like to make games that, and I don't know if this is going to be true, but that have a lot of open source modability. I mean, the old Quakes, literally mods of those games turned into full games. Bethesda's a reason a few companies even exist today, because of their games being modded. But, yeah, I have no idea why they would do it. However, I've always said this too, when it comes to cross-platform, especially with a first-person shooter, how easy would it be to create a lobby system where if I was on my PC and I wanted to use a controller, I could jump in with people on consoles who are playing on controller. Or if I wanted to use a keyboard and mouse, you can plug a controller or a keyboard and mouse into a console. You can do that these days. I don't see a problem.
Well, no, you can, but it's not like accurate. So basically, what the keyboard and mouse does, you can plug it in through like an adapter. That's what you're referring to, right?
I was told that there was a USB.
No, there's like because you can't actually like plug it into the system itself. What you have to do is that you have to buy like a separate adapter that you can plug the keyboard and mouse into like the Xbox or the PlayStation. The only reason why I know about this whole thing is because I'm I'm somewhat familiar with the Overwatch community on consoles because that's I'm an Overwatch console player. And there's been a bit of controversy and a bit of, debate in the community because console players have been using keyboard and mouse and people argue that they have an unfair advantage. But people don't understand that if you use a keyboard and mouse on the console, it doesn't actually have the precision aiming that the keyboard and mouse is known for. The keyboard and mouse movement, the mouse movement on a console is meant to simulate a controller movement on a joystick. So it's not going to be accurate. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So that's not you can't really do that yet. But if let's say the next generation of consoles, let's say hypothetically you can, and it's just going to be people are going to argue that it's going to be unfair for people on controllers and shit, or a bigger argument with the cross-platform play. There's certain games like Call of Duty or Battlefield you can't have console players and PC players with them. I don't know about that. I don't know if that's going to be too much of a deal because if console players and everyone else they could choose between controller and keyboard and mouse because there are a lot of PC gamers that play with controller and they don't seem to mind that there are other people playing with them with the keyboard and mouse. If you really want to make a big deal out of it, I guess you could always balance between keyboard and mouse and console players on one team to make sure it's not unbalanced, but I don't really see that as a huge deal. I don't know about you, about the whole controller, keyboard, and mouse thing.
Yeah, probably not. Not really a big. But
yeah.
I mean, it's just one of those things that I think even now, because you can plug, like you said with the adapter. I didn't know it was an adapter. I thought it, but just the fact that you can use a keyboard and mouse, I feel like it wouldn't be hard to just patch the ability to use it. Like even now, even if they just did it now, because it's one thing that's holding cross-platform back is, well, that would be unfair. Of course it would. A keyboard and mouse is faster. It's more precise. It's not going to be fair. So I don't know. That's just one thing I've always thought, but it may be way more difficult or just not in the cards. And with Sony opting out of, cross-platform anyway, I don't see that happening anyway.
Yeah. Do you see though overall cross-platform being the future? You think Sony's eventually going to cave in, or they're just going to keep doing this for generations to come?
Oh yeah, I see that happening. I mean, Sony's big man on campus right now, at least as far as their consoles concerned.
Yeah.
Right. But they're still owned by their consumers. There's a small majority of consumers who are just fanboys, or just everything Sony says is fantastic, and they just get on their knees and start sucking. But I mean, there are too many.
JTAC.
Yeah. But I think there are too many people who are pro-consumer who are going, look, Sony, this is retarded. Why can I not play with my friends? Especially when I pay the same amount of money for your online services, and they pay the same amount of money, and they're allowed to play with their friends. Why in the hell? I don't see it happening. Sony's gonna cave.
Yeah, absolutely. So you just talked about the online. I think you're kind of hinting at me that you want to talk about that, right? The whole paid online thing.
No, I don't care. But if it's a talking point, then sure.
No, this is just like I said. I said this before. We hit the record button. That this is a pretty informal thing. Whatever comes to mind, we're gonna talk about.
Oh sure.
So like with the subscription services, with PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live, on consoles you need to pay to play online, basically. And people are very unhappy about that, and I understand why. Me personally, I just had to cough up $60. My bank account already is low, and I had to spend another $60. But I held it off for like 3 months. That's how bad it was. Like I didn't really feel like paying for it. So I understand how you guys feel on the PC, or just console players that are just tired of it, right? But do you think that it'll ever go away? I don't think it ever will. I think they're going to keep doing the subscription because people are paying it. It's not like people are boycotting it. No, everyone's paying for it.
Yeah. No, I don't think it'll ever go away. I think it. I think it makes too much money. I think it's become microtransactions at this point. When it first started, people were like, "This is not sticking. I'm not allowing this to stick." And then more and more people were like, oh, "Okay, well, it's in every game now. I guess I don't care." And now it's a norm, right? I think it's just that. I don't think it's gonna go away. However, my problem with it is that it's very contrived. If I knew what it went to, I'd be a little more happy about it, because you see other companies who have similar services or even better services and don't ask for any money at all. And I only wonder, why is it that Sony and Microsoft ask for so much money? If you want examples of that, that's Blizzard and Valve off the top of my head. Their DRMs, EA's DRM also, and Ubisoft's DRM. These are all DRMs, including Sony and Microsoft's, and they all require servers in order to use. I think.
And they pay for it's not like Sony pays for the servers. It's the companies who make the games.
Right. Exactly. For game servers. However, for connecting everybody online, there are servers used. Like if I'm gonna be on my PlayStation and I connect to you through their DRM, then I understand there's a server for that Sony does pay for. But I mean, 220 million people on Steam, and Valve doesn't ask for money for that. And there are probably just as many on Blizzard's DRM. Probably a few less on EA and Uplay, and I just if I knew what that money went to, I think I'd be a lot more happy paying it. But I see that there are incentives in purchasing it. You get exclusive content, or you get games every month, and I can see if that is something that's beneficial to you. Games you probably would have never checked out before, you can totally get, and you can play online with your friends. So I mean,
right? But like, people are going to argue then, why are you essentially forced to buy this service when you don't care about the free games or the extra sales or whatever? You just want to play with your friends, right?
Right, and that's my problem, because I don't care about those free games. A lot of them are indie games that I can get on Steam on a sale for like a buck, or even full price at $5, and I don't care to spend.
You know what really pisses me off? Like, so I hate subscription services that have advertisements in them. That's been a recent trend. So like, I don't know if you remember, the 360 dashboard was filled with ads, and it was like $60 a year, and that's like, people like, I don't know if you're familiar with Blackbuster Critic.
No.
But oh man, he was like a legend back in the day. He was like a PC gamer. He was like the OG PC gamer. He was before you and Rags and BulletBarry and Top Hats and Champagne. He was there before all of you, and he was pretty much doing what you guys are doing now. And he was pretty much said, like, he's like you guys during the 7th generation, basically, right? He hasn't been on YouTube lately, but one good point he made is like, why the fuck is this service $60 a year and it has ads in them? Where is this money going to? It's in their pockets. It's lining their pockets. That's what's happening here.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's how I've always felt. Because I mean, they would be transparent. I've seen Sony and Microsoft be transparent about pretty much everything else they ask money for. So it's like, okay, wait a minute. What do you need that $60 for? And why do you keep raising the price? Like, what is it that's so expensive that you got to keep asking for money for? I could get it if you said, well, we sell our consoles at a loss, but that's something you just expect us to know. And I don't think that's actually happening most of the time. When it came to the PlayStation 4 originally, a lot of people did believe that they were selling their console at a loss. However, they made $18 on every console they spent. If you looked up how much it cost to make a PlayStation 4, it was $18 under their selling price. $18 isn't a lot of money, but if you sell like 40 or 4 million units on day one, I mean, that's a lot of money that stacks up. So
does that include all the costs besides does that include manufacturing and the money that the real retailers make from selling the consoles? They make $18.
See, I don't know. That's a good point. I'm not in their business model, and that I think is the point that I was really trying to make. Is they're really they're not transparent about that. So then that makes me standoffish. It makes me uneasy about.
Yeah, the thing about the hardware business is it's much more complex and tricky than the software business, because with hardware you have so many outside factors. You have the people who manufacture it, aka the little children in China that make it in sweatshops. And then you have the people who manufacture it, the people who do all this shit, and then you have you have to sell it to GameStop and Best Buy, and they make money off of that. It's just too complicated to track. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. But that's that.
Yeah. So okay, so I'm just gonna ask you about. There are two things I'm thinking about right now.
Okay.
What do you think about the future of gaming when it comes to used games? So, like, you remember the whole, the Don Matrick era, and the Xbox One having no disc drive and all this shit, and with no used games or whatever. Do you see the disc drive going away anytime soon?
I'm not so bold as to say that most PC gamers don't have disc drives, but of my friends, we don't. Being that most of our games are sold digitally, and it's actually easier to do that for companies in general. It costs less money. It's easier for even you to get up to download the game than to get up off your butt and go to GameStop or wherever the hell you go. It's more convenient. I actually see that as a good thing. I understand that there are people out there who are like, well, look, I am a collector and I like having discs. But that is a sentimental thing.
That's what people said about physical movies, and look what happened to them.
Exactly, right? We have a library. I still have a library. It's just not physical, right? The
only argument I see for physical media continuing through the generations is backwards compatibility, like PlayStation 2 discs and PS3 discs, that kind of thing. But beyond that, I don't see it being sustainable. I think GameStop's going to be the next blockbuster sooner rather than later. And I just don't see this whole physical media and digital media coinciding with each other. I just don't see it.
Right. So you don't think that optical drives being ripped out, you don't think that's a good thing?
So wait, you're asking, so like the PlayStation 5, if it had no disc drive, do I like it or don't like it? I mean, I think it's the future. I'm kind of torn because I'm a huge supporter of backwards compatibility, and I'm also a supporter of digital media. So I'm kind of conflicted because I love being able to play my old games, but if there's no disc drive, there's no way for me to be able to do that. Because Xbox One has backwards compatibility now on the 360 and now on the original Xbox. So I feel like unless you're gonna try to transfer all those games over to digital, which I don't think is gonna happen, because of licensing issues and all this other shit. Because you know how tricky it is to sell older games. Not all of them can be sold like they used to do. So that's gonna be a problem. I don't think you can just transfer all of it over to digital. I don't know what they're gonna do. I think that digital, though, is going to overtake physical. I can't see GameStop existing.
Good.
I can't see them being sustainable. I just don't see it, What do you think?
Let me see if I can put your mind at ease just a little bit. Because when it came to backwards compatibility on consoles, this is something that they've actually lacked in. They tried their hardest, but they do definitely lack in it too. The PlayStation, when Sony was asked, are you going to put backwards compatibility into your consoles, because Xbox had done it, Sony was like, well, maybe. No, we'll think about it. And eventually they did, but I think their setup is if you have the disc, you still have to pay for the game to play it, or is that Xbox's thing? It's one of them where if you had the old disc, if I have Red Dead Redemption on a disc from the Xbox 360 and I put it into my Xbox, I have to rebuy Red Dead Redemption on my Xbox One.
The way it works is that if you put the disc onto your Xbox One, you have to download it. Like, you have to download it like it's a digital game, but you do have access to it. Like, you don't have to pay more money for it.
Okay, so then...
But it is digital, though. It's not physical, like, in the sense that, oh, you put it in, you pop in and you play it. You have to install it and download it like it's a digital software. You know what I mean?
Right. It's an emulator that they're working with here.
That's exactly what it is. That's what they said. Yeah, it's an emulator.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with that, pretty much all games that were on the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 1, Xbox 360... No, not 360. Original Xbox. A few on the Xbox 360. Either they came to PC, especially with all the Nintendo games, but I'm not going to include those because Nintendo's, really strict about their bullcrap. But all those games either came onto the PC at the same time, or have been emulated as well. So with that, those ROMs are already available, and emulators have already been shown that it can be done. The Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 emulator are worked on, and I think they said like 25% of the PlayStation's library is emulatable perfectly as of right now, and that grows every month. I mean, that was months ago I heard that. So, I mean, emulating is very possible, especially from the companies who had these games in their hands from the get-go. Being able to talk to these companies again. I think that if they tried hard enough for their consumers and even said, what if we don't just give them an emulator? Let's sell them on a digital store. So you could, on your newest console, purchase any game that you've ever played before on your old systems, your old Xboxes. I think that's a little more possible because of digital.
It already kind of is happening. You see the PS2 games being sold on the PS4 and all these other games being sold. I think that's the direction they're going, but I think the problem people are having is that, like, I already own this game. Why do I have to buy it again, right?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, those are my thoughts, and I think we kind of agree with each other on those issues with that. But how long? Let's just give me an estimate. How many more years do you think GameStop will last?
Ha! I hope they die tomorrow, but I think they'll probably. I have a weird feeling about GameStop. I think that they're going to go downhill. I think they're going to probably become a developer company because they have a ton of money. Well, what they're trying to do right now is they're starting to try to develop video games. I don't know if you heard, but they launched...
Don't they own, what's that, Congregate? Aren't they the owners of that? Yeah. That's like the... It's like the service for... It's like a web browser game service, right?
Right, and they have actually started a development team, and they've launched a few video games that they're trying to get sold. I think they're trying to get into the market so that when they crash, because they know they're going under, they can't be that oblivious, they can still grab onto the coattails like they've always done.
They're trying a whole bunch of different things. They're trying to sell like other electronics like phones and shit. But do you really think, like when you think of like, oh, I want to get a new phone, you think like, let's go to GameStop? Like, no.
No.
And then they're trying to like, get into like retro game selling, but that's a niche market. The retro game collecting thing is not a big deal because, anyone can figure out how to do an emulator, and if you don't, all those games, you have the virtual console and all this other shit. I don't see that being sustainable enough for GameStop.
Yeah, neither do I at all. I think that GameStop is going to go, and I think it's about time. I don't know if you like GameStop. I absolutely despise them.
I used to. So, everyone has these stories about how shitty GameStop treated them. But the only bad experience I had is the terrible fucking trade-in values that they have for their games. Like because I made the video actually. It's still on my channel from like 4 years ago, of me trading in all these games, and I traded in like 25 games, and I got like $20.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I gave them. I bought a DS copy of Indiana Jones 2, Lego Indiana Jones 2, and I bought it for like $30 the day it came out. And I went back in there the same day because they had lied to me about what the game entailed. And I gave it back to them the same day, and they're like, "Yeah, we can give you $9." $9.
God damn. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the best trade-in value I got. So I traded in all these games. I traded in Halo, GTA 4, all these other different games that were like old and that I didn't care for anymore. The game I got the most trade-in value for was Sonic Generations. I got $8.25 for that. Every other game, Halo 4 got like $2, and GTA 4 got like $3, and all these different games. Like I understand supply and demand. Don't think I don't understand economics, but like that they give you $2 and they flip it and sell it for like 30. I know how this thing works.
Yeah, you can go in there.
Yeah. I understand getting like.
Sorry, continue.
No, like I understand getting like different values for different games, because obviously maybe a Sonic game is in less supply than another game, but like they make so much. Their profit margins are huge, man. Like, and I don't think anyone's gonna miss them when they're gone, because they were never pro consumer. They were never for the gamer. If that
Yeah, no, they never were. Not a time in their life. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember having too many bad Blockbuster experiences. It was just a matter of them, being antiquated, because no one's going to go out and rent movies anymore. But GameStop, no one's going to miss them. It's not like they treated, customers well. They were trying to shove all these games up your ass. They bothered whenever you went up to the counter, to buy whatever. They're like, oh, do you want a rewards card? Do you want this crap? Do you want this new game and that new game? Like, fuck off,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they always ask me the same thing. It was clockwork. Do you want a rewards card? You say no. Do you want to get a used game instead for $5 less? Do you want to pre-order the brand new game that just came out? And then,
I love that. I loved when they asked me that, because they thought I was an idiot. You buy the fucking used game for $5 less, but back then you had the fucking online passes, so then I had to spend another $10 on a fucking online pass, and I wound up spending more buying your fucking used games. It's fucking stupid. Remember that? Remember the online passes?
Yeah, they tried to get me to buy. It was Batman Arkham Origins had just come out, and oh my god, at the time I was giving them all of my old Xbox games, because I had just gone to PC and the Steam sale had happened. So I was like throwing my Xbox games at them to try to get Steam cards, because they sell them there, oddly enough. And they're like, hey, would you like to pre-order Batman Arkham Origins for the Xbox? And I was like, no, screw the Xbox. I'm going into PC. They're like, oh, you can buy it for the PC too? I was like, no, I don't want it. I don't want it at all. And it wouldn't matter how many times. Like, they'll sit there and they will do everything. Are you sure? Are you sure? I'll get on my knees for you. Are you sure? No, I don't want it.
What's happened to me a few times when I pre-ordered a game, they wound up giving me the wrong version of the game. Like, I pre-ordered let's say the 360 version of like Call of Duty, and they try to give me the PS3 version for whatever fucking reason. And I'm just like, no thank you.
Oh god. Did you okay, last thing about them. They had a scandal about how, and everybody knew they did it, but they had a scandal about how they would ask people, would you like to get for $5 off? It's a same copy, but it's a used copy, because used copies don't go back to the developer at all. None of that money goes back to, it's all them. So that $55 they get instead of the $60, I mean, that's enticing. But then you say no, that's, I don't want that. That's fine. Like, I'm good. And they apparently were still selling used games to people for $60.
I heard that. I heard about that. Yeah, that was a huge thing back in, like, what was it, 2009, 2010? That was a huge fucking story, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember that. Man, that was such an interesting time period, man. Like, seventh generation seventh generation was so much more interesting than this crap going on. Like, it's so much more entertaining. All the YouTubers and all the people talking back then than your fucking JTech TVs and your fucking crap gamers and all these fucking stupid YouTubers. Even the popular ones these days, I don't even care for them. Like, I don't really watch gaming videos on YouTube anymore. If I'm watching videos on YouTube, it's gonna be related to something else, like politics, you know, or I'm a big MMA person, so I watch that kind of stuff too. So yeah, I mean, I don't really watch gaming videos because gaming YouTubers, honestly, they fucking suck.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to offend you. I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying in general. Like,
No,
they suck.
I agree. Like I it's hard for me to find one that I actually like too. Like I end up catching
This
myself.
is like the most boring generation ever.
Yeah, especially for video games, because it's all so samey. Everything that comes out, it's like, oh look, another company screwed us over. Oh, well, I didn't see that coming. Oh no, look.
And also, like, you look at the most popular games of this generation, and you look at the top 10 most popular games, top 10 most best-selling games. You have games like GTA 5. You have games like The Last of Us, and these games, what do those games all have in common? They're remasters of previous games.
Yeah.
So they're not coming up with too much new shit. Like, and it's sad, you know. And this is coming from someone that I guess you could say is somewhat biased towards the consoles. I have to admit that, man, this generation of consoles is shit. Like, PS3 and 360, those were fucking great. Like,
I agree.
like you know, I know you left console gaming around that time period, but man, it was fucking interesting. Like, as soon as the red ring of death and the yellow light of death, all that shit was resolved. Like, man, you had some really fucking interesting shit going on. You have all these different exclusives. Man, remember how many fucking PS3 exclusives were coming out? Holy shit, there were so many of them. And I remember everyone was saying that Sony was going to lose the generation because, you know, Xbox was kicking the shit out of Sony in the beginning, and then they fucking came back. And man, and you know, they more PS3s were sold than Xbox 360s now.
Well, I mean, competition births innovation, and that's what was going on. They were fighting for their reign as top dog, and then all of a sudden, one company ends up becoming the one that wins, like Sony. You know, oh, we stole it from the get-go, and then what happens? Everything gets dull. There's no competition because Xbox is just sitting there trying to catch up. It's like Nvidia and AMD.
Wow, I never even realized that. You know, Sony won every generation that they've been a part of. They won all of them. Yeah. So I know people like, I know the Wii technically outsold the PS3, but the Wii wasn't an actual console. Like, you know what I mean? It was more like a children's toy more than anything else. I wouldn't really consider it like a gaming system. I know it was, but all of the big games that were coming out were all either on the 360 or PS3. They weren't coming on the Wii, you know? But the PS1 kicked the shit out of the N64. The PS2 dominated everything. It's the best-selling console of all time. PS3, you know, Xbox was kicking the shit out of them, and then, boom, they came out with, like, the PS3 Slim, I think it was. And they had all these exclusives. God of War, Uncharted. Oh, my God, they were on fucking fire, man. And, you know, this generation, they haven't been doing too great. I mean, they had The Order 1886, which is a total fucking bust. They did have a few good exclusives, though. But generally speaking, they haven't been too impressive. But, you know, when I think of my experience with Xbox, you know, I don't care for their exclusives. Like Halo and Gears of War, I don't give a fuck about either of those games. Like, I never thought that Xbox exclusives were too good. My opinion.
No, yeah. I actually cannot think of one Xbox exclusive that wasn't from the 360 era that I was like, oh my god, I have to get my hands on that.
No, like, even the ones during the 360 era, I don't remember me being too interested in them. I guess, you know, and I had both, by the way. I wasn't just on the PS3. I was on the PS3 and the 360. And, you know, I thought that Xbox Live was a better service back then because PSN fucking sucked. But the thing is, it still fucking does, and now they charge you for it. It hasn't gotten much better. Remember during Christmas of, like, 2014, I think it was? The entire Christmas holiday season, it was down.
Mm-hmm.
And this was on the PS4 when you were paying for it. I know we're talking about the paid online thing again, but I'm just saying, like, man, things change, and not for the better sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, I hear ya.
So you were talking about leaving console gaming a lot. Just clarify. I know you've said it in videos before, but what would you say is the number one reason why you left console gaming? Was it the subscription cost, or was it some other factor?
I didn't start hating the subscription costs until I realized why they sucked so much. The thing was, I would go to school back in high school, and I didn't have any money for any console. I had my GameCube still back in high school, and this is like, my God, this is like 2011 and no 2012. It was 2012. Okay. So I still have my GameCube. I get the Xbox because a friend at school said you gotta get the Xbox. It's the best console, right? And you want to play. He said Red Dead Redemption, which was on both, and I'm a little annoyed he did that to me because I couldn't play with him because of the subscription. However, it wasn't until another friend of mine, PC gamer friend, said, "Why don't you build computers? Like you really like computers. Like why don't you do that?" And I said, "Well, computers aren't gaming machines." And that character that you put on was
Yeah.
exactly who I used to be. That character that you put on, MrNoobTubeGamer, was exactly who I was. I would argue.
Were you Mr. NewTubeGamer, or were you the console king?
I was the console king. I was the console king.
Yeah, that's great.
To such a degree that I would actually say that PC gaming is the exact same as phone gaming. The graphics are the same. There's no market for it. Oh, I know.
Even I didn't fucking say that, and I said crazy shit. I said all PC gamers are communists. I said all this fucking crazy fucking shit that like no one would think of, even if they were high off their fucking ass. I said all this crazy shit. I got 10 likes and 2,000 dislikes, but even I had my fucking limits. I didn't say shit as stupid as that.
No, I did, because I believed it. Because I'd go over to his house, and I'd see him playing games like Battlefield 1942, which came out in 2003? But it was a good game. He loved it, and he would show me the games that he could play. And he's playing on a Dell Inspiron, It wasn't anything crazy powerful to show me what graphics looked like. And at the time, I was a graphics whore. And I was like, no, Red Dead Redemption looks better than that game. Xbox looks better than PC.
That's not how it works.
I know. I didn't know. I had no idea. And then one day, another friend of mine was like, hey, I just built a computer. You got to come over and see it. And I was like, oh, God, not you two, right? He shows me. I go over to his house, and he shows me, he's playing, it was Skyrim. And I was like, oh, crap. I, instantly felt like an idiot. And I was like, wait, why does it look so different? And he's like, oh, yeah, all the graphic settings are on Ultra. I was like, no, I know it looks better. Why does it look different? And he's like, what are you talking about?
The frame rate, is that what you're getting at?
It was the frame rate. It was the FOV. It would I couldn't play video games for such a long time. On my Xbox, I could only play for an hour because I get a headache, and I never understood why.
But the human eye can only see 30 frames.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, but because of the FOV and because of the frame rate and everything, my eyes would start to hurt after an hour, and I was sitting there just I cannot believe I did this. And I downloaded Steam on my PC, and I got this video game called Primal Carnage. And then this was funny. I said to myself, I'm never ever buying another game on Steam. I want Primal Carnage because I love dinosaurs, and this game looks fun. And the game is essentially you play as dinosaurs, you play as humans, and then you kill each other. It's Call of Duty, except you get to play as a dinosaur team. It's fantastic. It's dead now, but it's fantastic. And I played that with my friend all the time. And then I saw Star Wars Battlefront 2, one of my favorite games of all time. Hey, it's on sale, it's $2. Yeah, I'll pick that up. All of a sudden, the next week, Steam sale, the first one I've ever seen. And I'm seeing games that I played on the Xbox go on sale for $5. Games that I've been wanting to play, and I was like, oh my God, I spent all my money. And I was like, I gotta build a PC. I have to do it. That's really what got me into it. I was just as inept, except my preference just switched. And I sold my Xbox, and it wasn't until later down the line I started delving into the industry of gaming. I didn't develop a passion until I switched to PC and realized that the industry is corrupt, but there's things you can do about it. You have a voice, and you can speak that voice. And
So do you feel the best way to fight corruption is to be on the PC then?
No, God, not at all. Not at all.
Because it's a more open platform?
No. I feel that if JTech TV was a more pro-consumer person, he could easily sway his community towards pro-consumerism. I mean, I have this...
Well, the thing about JTech, he's not an actual voice of the PlayStation gamers. Like, most PlayStation gamers think he's a joke.
Well, right. No, and I get that. I'm just saying, with a following of 7,000, 10,000, like 15,000 people, that's a decent chunk of people to say, hey, Sony, we love you, but we're done paying for online. All of us are stopping. And then more and more people. I mean, if you developed a channel solely around trying to make the industry better, which is what I've tried to do, I have a really strong feeling that it can work. And it doesn't matter what platform you play on, just so long as you have that idea and other people can share that idea. I mean, I think that you could do it.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, no. What do you think about Atari potentially coming back into the console market?
I'm optimistic. I think that they're going to have a really hard time competing, but then again, competition births innovation. So I think that it might actually be a good thing, even if they suck. Like, even if they suck, Sony and Microsoft now have one more company to compete against, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, like, the Sega Saturn was crap, but that's what made the PlayStation good, you know?
Exactly. So yeah.
So I think we spent a lot of time talking about the future. We'll talk about a little bit about the past, though. I know we've been talking a little bit about it, but let's talk way into the past in this section of the interview. So, what are your earliest memories of gaming? What's the first game you remember playing? What's the first system you remember playing? Let's talk about that.
The very first system I played in my entire life, I was 4 years old, 3 years old. And I went over to my cousin's house, and he had a NES. And I would play Super Mario and Duck Hunt. And I look back thinking, like, oh my god, I was so good at the game. But knowing that, like, I probably really, you're a brand new gamer, you probably really sucked and probably annoyed the hell. You know, like, when you sit someone, like, your friend down in front of a video game, and you're like, this is my favorite game, play it. And it makes you hurt because they suck so much. Like,
yeah.
That's kind of where I think I was at. But I played Super Mario. And then we got a GameCube when I was 5 years old. My mother and father bought us a GameCube, and the first game that we popped in was Super Mario Sunshine.
Nice.
So I grew up with Nintendo, but I didn't want to stay with Nintendo. My brother, he bought a Wii, and I bought an Xbox. And I enjoyed playing on both of them, but I liked my Xbox more. I think the Wii was a really, really good console, but I think its best ability was that it was really good at being a GameCube. I think that's what it's like, really, its strength was. Other than that, the system was okay. It was gimmicky, it was okay. But I didn't stick with Nintendo. But yeah, my first experiences were from Nintendo, and I tend to hear a lot of people coming from Nintendo as well.
Me personally, I came from Sony. So, but my first system, I was 3 years old like you, but my first system that I remember playing was actually the N64. And the first game I actually remember playing was, no. I was like 2 years old and I was playing like PC games, like kids games, like the Teletubbies and shit like that.
Oh, of course.
Like I was 1 year old and I was into gaming. So I was gaming for as long as I was in a diaper, pretty much. I was playing the Teletubbies. There was another game. What was it called? Like Putt Putt Enters the Race.
No.
Yeah, yeah, it's that old. And there were all these games that I played. There was another game. It was called SpongeBob Employee of the Month. There were all these PC games like that were made for kids. You remember those games? They don't really have too much of them anymore, though. Like the point and click kids interactive games. But man, they were huge back in the day. Now it's just your iPad or whatever. But back then it was computer games for kids. But the first thing I remember actually playing, was Star Wars Racer on the N64. Episode 1 of Remember Episode 1 of Star Wars where they had the pod racing and that shit, and they actually had a racing game out of that. And I remember playing it with my sister, and she always kicked my ass because I was a kid, obviously. But yeah, man, that was the first thing I remember playing. But it was my sister's console.
Right.
First console I actually owned. It was for my 6th birthday, and it was a PlayStation 2. So I'm a Sony guy. I didn't grow up with Nintendo necessarily. Like my first console was the PS2. A lot of my friends were on the GameCube. I didn't know anyone on the Xbox actually. Now that I think about it, I don't know anyone who had an original Xbox back then.
I did.
Yeah, no, I didn't know anyone. I didn't even know what the fucking Xbox was until maybe a little bit before the 360 came out. But yeah, man, I had so many great memories with Sony myself. But what would you say your favorite games were during your childhood?
Spider-Man 2 on the GameCube was one of my favorite games. It was my first open world game that I ever played, and I sank hours into that. There was a point in time where I'd play video games, like Ocarina of Time, and I would change the character and the story, and I'd pretend I was like... It was role-playing, essentially is what it was, but I didn't know what to call it back then. I was just walk up to NPCs and start my own little conversations. I think that was the most fond memories of those old video games. And I feel like maybe it's just that I'm older, that I just can't do that anymore, or maybe I just can't do it with the new games that come out.
Yeah, believe it or not, we're not too far apart in age. So I know exactly what you mean by that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so obviously I grew up with the PS2. That was my 6th birthday, which would be 2004. So do the math. And I remember the first games I got was Sonic Heroes, The Hobbit, and ATV Off-Road Fury 2. Those are my first 3 games that I actually owned. Because, ATV Off-Road Fury, they came with the console. It was, man, I had so much fun with that shit. I always died and I always fucked my shit up. I remember there was a thing where if you drive to the top of the mountain, your fucking dude flies from across the map, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. But yeah. I think my favorite games during my childhood, it's too hard to tell. They were I had so many of them, man. Definitely Sonic was my favorite. I didn't play too much Nintendo as a child. The only Nintendo systems I had was the DS, and I did have a Wii, but that was much later on. My 10th birthday, I got the Wii. But yeah, I have, man. I think the 6th generation was my favorite generation, because it was much more simpler back then. You just had to insert a memory card, and you put the disc in, and you were able to play. But man, as the generations went by, gaming became a lot more complicated, even on the consoles. You had the DLCs and the season passes and shit. You didn't really have that back then. So I appreciate the simplicity we had back then, and I definitely missed that time period.
Yeah, me too. It's funny. It's something that I feel still kind of does exist now that I think about it, through indie development.
I guess, but I don't know. I feel like it's different because we had when you're a child to, if that makes sense.
You actually did kind of cut out there. What were you saying?
I said the experience is kind of different from when you're growing up as a child. Playing, having these experiences and being 19 in college like I am right now. So it's much different, and you can't. I don't have a desire to replicate it, because you can't replicate it. It's there's certain times in your life where you can't relive or replicate certain experiences. They just will never be replicated. So yeah, I mean, but I had some great memories with that time period, and from what I can gather, you did as well.
Mm-hmm.
But what else can we talk about? So this is a more general. I'm going to ask some more general questions, and then I think we could wrap this thing up because we've been going on for a while. Uh, but wait, before I do that, wait, this putt putt thing's a meme. I didn't even know that.
No. It's not a meme. And I actually showed it while you were talking about it. It was about
Yeah, I just saw it.
yeah, it was about a month ago. I didn't even know these existed on Steam, but someone sent me the entire collection of Putt Putt.
Collection. There's more than one.
Yes, there are apparently 6, 7, like 10, 11 of them.
Wow, I only knew Putt Putt Enters the Race. That's the one I played. I was a kid. I was like 2 or 3 years old when it came out. Man, I didn't even know that was like people knew about that shit. I thought it was like some fucking random shit that no one knew. Man, I didn't know it was like this huge thing.
No, yeah, it's I don't know if it's a meme, but it's yeah, it exists.
It's a joke. There's a difference between a meme and a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I know something funny. This isn't, this is separate from the interview, but like, since we're talking about Steam games, like, and the entire collection, being given to you, I get Steam gifts all the time. I get free games, and I don't even go on Steam anymore.
Mm.
I just think that's funny. I guess because of the whole, console king thing. People are like, I'm gonna prove you wrong and give you free PC games. I'm like, okay, are you gonna hear an argument from me? Nah.
What games did they give you?
Not like big AAA games, but like I keep getting emails like every now and then. Like someone donated you this game. It was some indie, some indie games I never heard about, but it's still crazy to me that people actually go out and spend money from their own Steam wallet just to try to prove a point. You know what I mean? I think it's kind of like some reverse psychology shit right there.
It kind of is. For me, I get a lot of games sent to me quite regularly, and I always love to thank the people who do it. It's just fantastic that they would.
Yeah, but I'm not a PC gamer though. That's the thing.
Right. Well, I guess you can kind of liken it to a gift from your grandmother at that point. Like they give you a book, and you're like, well, I don't really read, or give something like that, and you're like, well, thank you for the sentiment. But then if it is to
no, legit, I got the email the other day. Actually, I forget what game it is. It was some indie game. I never heard of it before.
Right.
But literally, what how like if you give someone a gift on Steam, you can also type a message in so they can see it.
Right.
Like what the message is. The message was literally "fuck you, you're cancer, but here's a free game."
That's awesome.
So yeah, but let's just move on from that whole thing. So this is another like general conversation. So we talked about PC, we talked about console. Do you have any experiences with handheld gaming, like dedicated handheld games like the Game Boy and the DS and PSP? You have any good experiences with those, or did you really not care about that at all?
I had a Game Boy Advanced when I was 7, and I played the living hell out of that thing until it broke. The Game Boy had a problem. I don't know if you ever had one. It had a problem where if you pulled it back too far, too many times, the screen wouldn't work anymore, and it made these.
Oh, this is the Game Boy Advance SP, right? The one with the flips. Yeah,
and it made these like demonic noises. Like it scared the crap out of me. I'm like 8 years old because I've had it for like a year, and it's just every time I tried to boot it up, it made these demonic screeching noises. But then we got a DS, and I played with that, and it was awesome because my brother got one too. So we played the Super Mario games in our living room at the same time. And again, like we'd come up with little games to play with each other. There was like game modes where you were trying to stomp the stars out of each other, but you couldn't kill each other when you were both small. So we'd both take the mini mushroom and just run around the map. And it was fantastic. Like I loved it. And then my friend got an iPod Touch 3rd generation, and the 4th generation had just come out. So I picked one up. My brother did too, and that ended up being our handheld gaming for quite some time. It like turned into phone gaming between us.
Yeah, that I always thought that was a shame that handheld gaming kind of died, because there's still a potential to have like a dedicated system that can do online, that could do what a console does. You know what I mean? But sadly, I guess they couldn't compete with phones. That's sad, but that it happens. You
Well,
can't try to bring back the past.
there's actually, I think it's Asus. I don't know if you've ever, you probably have heard of them. Big PC gaming company. They make motherboards and graphics cards and all the other components. However, they're coming out with a phone, their very first phone, and it's going to have a graphics card, a dedicated GPU in there. And they're hoping to make a real market for gaming. I mean, since everybody has one of these cell phones in their pockets and they're all playing these games, why not try to get more hardcore gamers into phone gaming?
I think that's a good idea. There was actually a system. It was a handheld system that was made by another hardware company. I'm sure you're aware of the NVIDIA Shield.
Yeah.
It was no, not the new one that became a tablet. That sucks. But the one before that had a screen and a controller attached to it.
Yep.
That looked fucking great. And it's so much potential. But they had it, and then they just turned it into a tablet. I thought it was stupid that they did that. Whatever.
My coworker has that exact thing you're talking about, the NVIDIA Shield with the little gamepad. My brother and mother both have the NVIDIA Shield tablets, and then I purchased the NVIDIA Shield streaming device.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So we have, at least I know one person who has all of those. My brother and mother really like the tablet, but they wanted to use it for tablet use, not for gaming use. My friend who has the little portable gaming machine, he loves that thing and uses it to browse the web during work or play little games. And then I got the streamer so that if I decided I wanted to do VR, I could stream from my PC up here down to the TV in the living room.
Oh, yeah. No, I've heard of that before.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Makes things easier, yeah.
So the last handheld system that I bought, besides a phone, obviously, because everyone has a phone, the last system I bought, I remember, it was on launch day. I bought the PS Vita, and it was one of the worst gaming decisions I ever made in my life because they stopped supporting that system after not too long. They had some cool games in the beginning, they had Uncharted Golden Abyss, which was an Uncharted game on your Vita, which I thought was really cool. But they had all these other games that just weren't too good. And then they tried to make it like a console. They tried to they ported Borderlands 2 and all these other console games on, but it just, I guess it didn't get enough attention, and it just died off soon. It's sad because it had potential, but I just thought it was stupid that the analog sticks didn't click, they didn't have an L3 or R3 button, which made it really hard to sprint because they came out with a lot of first-person shooters, so, that was a headache. And then they didn't have any shoulder buttons. Or they had shoulder buttons, but they didn't have triggers or whatever. It was just stupid. So, yeah, that was a very disappointing experience. But I'm not hoping for handhelds to come back. It's wishful thinking at this point. I know there's probably some kind of market out there for it, but who knows at this point?
Oh, I mean, the Ouya still exists.
No, it doesn't. That company went out of business.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm very aware.
It's crazy that people thought that this was actually going to be the next big thing, to be able to play phone games on your TV with a controller. It sounded good at first, but oh my god, you should have thought when you're oh yeah, this console is only $100 that something was up with it, because the controller was terrible. It was probably the worst controller design of any console ever, maybe besides the Atari Jaguar or something. But that was one of the worst controller designs. It was one of the most uncomfortable controllers ever. I don't know if you've ever felt the Ouya controller.
No.
But man, it's really uncomfortable. I felt it once. Oh man, really uncomfortable. And then people thought it was a good idea to compete with them. They came out with the game sticks and all this other shit that did the same thing. I'm are you fucking kidding me? People think this is a good idea? Oh my god, I can't believe it. What's so special? I get it. There are plenty of good games out on the phone, on the Android, and on whatever. Because I believe it was an Android console. That's what it was, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was an Android console. There are a lot of great games on Android that have potential but fucking suck with the touchscreen. I get that, but is it really important enough to like make a whole system like I don't know. I don't think that that's just didn't seem like a good idea to me. I mean,
No.
everyone there was so much hype. Remember how much hype was behind that thing? God.
I do recall that they were saying that the Ouya was going to surpass Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft with ease.
Oh yeah, I remember they were also being like, "Oh yeah, we have emulators and shit, and we're gonna allow people to program games out of the box, and we're really supporting indie developers and shit, and like all the games that come out, you can try them for free." I'm like, dude, like this sounds like Bernie Sanders is selling a fucking game system. Like this is too good to be true. Like, come on.
Yeah, no, and I think it's funny because the chip in there, it was their Tegra, NVIDIA's Tegra processor for the Android that they put in Android phones, a few of them, and NVIDIA puts in all of their tablets and their little consoles little handheld consoles. It's funny because Nintendo ended up following in their footsteps there, and they have the Tegra. I think it's the Tegra K chip, in their NVIDIA or in their Switch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that little phone, GPU. A processor. It's an APU. I don't know. It's something. But yeah, so I thought it was interesting that Nintendo ended up going that direction, because
what do you think about the Switch? Do you think it's going to be a huge success? Because right now it's too early to tell.
Yeah, that's a hard one to say. I think that there are a lot of Nintendo fans out there, and a lot of people who aren't fanboys but are like, yeah, I love Nintendo. I'm gonna purchase it. But at least for a consumer like myself, I'm not gonna pick it up until there are enough games on there to warrant its purchase. I mean, that's the thing about any new console. I'm gonna go where the games are at, and when you buy a brand new console, there's not a lot of games on there, So I don't see justification in purchasing a brand new one. But I think that it might be worth it down the road. I think that there might be some novelty to it, A lot of people were coming to me about the worst reasons to pick it up, though. They were saying, well, Binding of Isaac is on it. And I was like, right, but I have Binding of Isaac on my computer. Like, yeah, it's my favorite game.
Yeah. So the thing, I've talked about this before on my channel and through Twitter or whatever, that I have a lot of concerns about the Switch because it sounds like such a great concept. Like, this is actually one gimmick Nintendo came out with that actually sounded like cool, but then more details came out. Like, the battery life is only like 2 hours, and for the handheld part of the Switch, and there's just paid online is another thing that and what's the other thing that I just really like? What the yeah,
voice chat.
You know what I'm gonna say? Yeah, the voice chat. Like, first of all, you have paid online, but they don't even have good voice chat in it. You have to use like an app on your phone. Like, I'm on Discord right now. This whole fucking interview, like I'm on Discord on my phone right now, right? I have the app. This whole interview would be fucked if someone decides to fucking call me right now. Imagine if I'm in the middle of a fucking game, like I'm playing with my friends and someone calls me. Like that, it's just I don't know what what the fuck Nintendo was thinking doing this shit.
Okay, so I don't know if you saw Review Tech USA's video on the whole dongle that you have to get. So there's apparently the Switch comes with or will come with this dongle that you can plug into your phone and connect to the Switch, but it's only so long, so you have to be pretty close to it, or at least have a long cord attached to, like, put headphones in or something like that. But then if you have something like an iPhone, like the iPhone 7, the one without any headphone jack, you have to plug in that dongle that'll let you charge and put in like a headphone jack at the same time, and then you gotta hook it to the Switch, and then you gotta hook that Switch to your headphones, and then you gotta hook that to your microphone. And it's like this huge.
I honestly don't understand. It seems more complicated to do this whole phone thing than make their own fucking voice chat that's native to the console.
Yeah, especially when the Switch itself has speakers or your TV has speakers. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, I don't fucking get it. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. Like, who thought this is a good idea? And I don't know. I don't plan on ever buying a Switch ever. It's just not my cup of tea. And it's just maybe if it was a little bit more power, because it's like less powerful than the original PS4.
Right.
And it's it's any multi-platform version of the game. It's gonna suck. And they said they were gonna have third-party support, but it doesn't even look like they actually are gonna have it. Besides, Rocket League or whatever. But yeah, I mean, and oh yeah, Skyrim. I was roasting the hell out of that, by the way. I made a video about Bethesda's conference. That's what made me come back to YouTube, actually, like I said earlier on the interview.
Yeah.
And so I was talking about it, and part of their presentation was Nintendo Switch on like Skyrim version, right? Skyrim on the Switch, and their feature is that you can put a Zelda amiibo onto the Switch, and you can play as Zelda in Skyrim. And I was just like, I legit fucking cracked up because I was saying, like, there's no way that you can play as Zelda on any other system. It's not like you can go on Nexus or something and download a mod of Zelda and it literally being the same fucking thing.
For free.
And not just that, but I'm just thinking to myself, is it really anybody that has a Switch right now that's looking forward to the Switch version of Skyrim that hasn't played Skyrim 20,000 times already? So how am I supposed to be impressed by them getting Skyrim? It's not Bethesda. It's not Nintendo, being great. It's Bethesda just trying to sell as many versions of Skyrim as they fucking can instead of making a new fucking game. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah. No, God, that sounds awful. I didn't watch it again, but like, yeah, that just doesn't sound very, very good at all.
Dude, like, there's literally, I can't believe this. Like, I used to, even like, when I was a teenager, preteen, whatever, E3 2010, 2011, those were great E3s. Like, I remember having a list, like, going on G4, the TV channel. This is how long ago this shit was. I actually went on G4 to watch live E3, coverage or whatever. And I was just looking at all the games, and I had a list of, like, 20 games that I wanted to get by watching the press conferences and the E3, stage floor. And now these days, man, like, I can't name one game that I actually am looking forward to that's coming out this year or next year. I just don't care. Like, there's Star Wars Battlefront 2 I'm looking forward to. By the way, I got Star Wars Battlefront, the first one that EA made that wasn't too great.
Yeah.
But I got it for $10, including all DLCs, so I decided to give it a try. So, PlayStation's actually getting some good deals. Steam used to have a monopoly on great deals for people, but it seems like consoles are catching up.
Well, the thing is, I mean, when you go digital, that's something you can look forward to, is digital games, because they don't cost as much money to manufacture. They can sell them for cheaper. I mean, that's why Steam is able to do what they can do, because these developers are like, hey, we just generated a code. Yeah, sell it for $20. I don't care.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, I'm just not too interested in any games that are coming out, like, besides maybe, like I said, Star Wars Battlefront 2, because I grew up with the prequel movies. I grew up with the clones and the droids and all that, whole thing. And Anakin Skywalker and, the first, episodes 1 through 3 of Star Wars. The movies that people say suck, but I grew up with them, so I love them. And that was one main reason why I wasn't too interested in the first Battlefront game that EA made, because it didn't include the prequel content that I grew up with. So, I didn't grow up with Stormtroopers. That's how, like, I'm not young, but I'm not old either. So, I grew up with that shit. So, besides that game and Red Dead Redemption 2, which I'm kind of skeptical about even at this point, because, I mean, let's face it, the online portion of GTA 5 killed GTA 5. Because you have, and this is another conversation we can maybe start if you want to. about the whole microtransaction thing and all that other crap that that we have to deal with. So like, I understand if a game is free to play and it has microtransactions up the ass. I have no complaints whatsoever. They have to make their money somehow if they're making the game free to play. I get it. I'm not no complaints whatsoever if there are microtransactions in a free to play game. Although I will say though that companies make games free to play on purpose, so you spend way more than $60 on the game, which you think is bad enough. But now they come out with $60 games that have just as much microtransactions as a free to play game. Like you have the the supply drops in Call of Duty. So when the new Call of Duty World War II game comes out, which they advertise as historically accurate, you'll be walking around whipping and nay-naying in fucking Call of Duty because they have the that stupid dance, the whip and nay-nay, that stupid crap.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, in Black Ops 3 you can do that through a supply drop. Like, because you have the taunts at the end of the game. Oh my god, it's just so stupid. So you'll be storming Normandy with rainbow assault rifles and you stupid fucking camos, and and playing as a black female Nazi. It's going to be so historically accurate, I'm sure. But man, supply drops and shark cards and battle packs and whatever the fuck else in these other games that they have, it really ruins the experience for me. That's just how I feel, because it's like, seriously, I spent $60 on the game already, and I don't even feel like I have the complete experience. And on top of that, I have to worry about season passes and DLCs and shit. And then on top of that, you have fucking supply drops where there are weapons that you can only get through supply drops. It's not even DLC. It's fucking crazy. They fucking rob the public blind, and they're people, they wouldn't keep doing it if they weren't making money. There are plenty of people who are buying this shit. So I think we should, I think we're doing the wrong strategy here when it comes to, going after these companies for their business practices. Instead of going after the companies, why not go after the idiots who fucking give them the money? I think they're more of a threat than the companies themselves are, because a corporation and a company, they are going to try to make as much money as they can. And if people are stupid enough to buy it, do you really blame them for continuing to do it?
Well, right. I mean, that's you got to educate the consumer first. I mean, if they don't understand that they're being ripped off, then they're not going to do anything about it. Yeah.
So I used to have even besides my whole console king character, I actually did have some unfavorable opinions of guys like Rags and guys like Top Hats and Champagne. I thought they were being a little too being like elite PC elitists or whatever. But I think they do have the right strategy in that they're going after the consumer that's paying for online, that's doing all this stupid shit, that's hurting the industry, because at the end of the day, it's the people who give them the money that hurt the industry than the companies, because they're gonna do whatever the hell they want. If people keep buying 10,000 versions of Skyrim, if people keep buying the same Call of Duty game every year, if people keep buying supply drops, if people keep buying season passes, then can you really blame them for doing it if that's where the money is? Like, it's so that's why I kind of changed my opinion on Top Hats. I'm cool with him now. I've always been cool with you though. I'm pretty neutral towards Fringy, and I'm neutral towards Rags. So I don't really have any bad blood against any of those people anymore, because I understand where they're coming from now.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. Yeah, that whole beef between all of us was actually pretty funny. But yeah, I'm glad that
it was. Yeah, no, Top Hats, we've been in contact lately, and we're cool. We're cool.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good. I like the direction your channel's in, and maybe one day you'll be joining all of us up there in that podcast that we do.
The Five Horsemen of PC gaming.
Yeah.
That's what it's gonna be, yeah, for sure. Even though I don't have a PC yet, and I'm just, I'm on Discord right now on my phone. I'm not even on a PC, and I have a PS4 and an Xbox. That's how I stream. Yeah, I think there'll be. I don't think it'll work out just yet, but maybe one day.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna ask you maybe a few more general questions, and then we'll get this over with. All right?
Okay.
So what are your so these are more general questions. What would you say your favorite genres of gaming are? So like first person shooters, strategy games, MMOs. Like what would you say your favorite genres are and your least favorite ones? Like, let's say if it's a game, a certain genre that you're like, no, I'm not gonna play this.
Okay, you're gonna hate me. But my favorite genre. Oh God, hang on. Ah. Okay, sorry about that. My favorite genre of video game is actually in the indie subcategory.
Okay.
I think if indie was it classified as a genre itself, which I guess it like is, but not. I would
Not really, because they're indie first person shooters.
Right.
They're indie strategy games. So, I mean, be a little more specific if you can.
right. Okay. So yeah, God, I really do like first person shooters. I really do like roguelikes. But I have this thing where if it comes from an indie developer, it's almost like I know it's going to be there's going to be something in there that I've never seen before. It's going to be new, like this new mechanic or this the way that they've designed the game. I'm never going to have seen this before. I love games like Binding of Isaac. You should play a game called Sword with Sauce. Or if you've seen it or heard of it before, definitely look it up, or I'll send you a link on Steam. You know what? I might even gift it to you just to be that douche.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, there's what genre is my favorite? I'd probably say, as of right now, I like stealth or first person shooter.
Cool.
My least favorite genre would probably be MMOs or RPGs, and that's a me thing. That's only because I don't take a lot of time to let myself get enveloped into the world, into the story, and I don't like grinding, which I feel is what those are. I also like realism in my games, where if I shoot something in the head, I expect it to die, and when I shoot something in the head and a health bar pops up, it annoys me a little bit.
So if the game has a hardcore mode or survival mode, you're gonna play it, pretty much, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I know a lot of people that are like that. Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm gonna just share what my personal favorite genres are, my personal least favorite ones. So we'll start with the least favorite ones. I agree with you. I fucking hate MMOs. It's just too much of a grind fest. I know Destiny technically is an MMO, but I just hate those games where, you spend 95% of the time just grinding and grinding and grinding the same missions over and over again just to get like points or whatever the fuck you need to get. And that's why I'm kind of skeptical about, like I said earlier, I didn't get to finish my point, I don't believe. I veered off track a little bit. With Red Dead Redemption 2, they're probably going to do the same shit with the online, where it just becomes a grind fest. I just prefer the original Red Dead Redemption's online, where it was just more simple. You were in an open world, but there were other people there. You could do certain things, but it wasn't just... It was simple, you can engage in a duel or whatever. But they're going to do... Red Dead Redemption is going to have this huge online like GTA 5 did. And, you're going to have microtransactions similar to shark cards. I don't know what the hell they're going to call it. But, they're going to have heists, because it's a Western game, obviously. And I just think it's going to suck, just like how GTA 5 Online did. At first, it was great. You had so much fun with it. But those games overstay their welcome after a while, especially since they keep releasing shit. These DLCs or updates, whatever the hell they want to call them, where they're free, but you have to spend like $10 million in the game to get them, and no one can do that, like legit. Everyone has to buy the shark cards. Yep. So, no, those are definitely my least favorite games, although you can't call GTA 5 an MMO. But just those kind of games where they're based off of a grinding, that kind of play style, I just can't do it. And I think the genre I hate the most, for sure, is puzzle games. I just can't stand them. For some reason, I just never got into them. Like Tetris and games like that. I just never had any enjoyment out of them. I just hate puzzle games so much. I have zero entertainment value out of those type of games.
So what about your absolute favorite?
Yeah, I was gonna get into that. So I've been really getting into RPG games lately. I used to hate RPGs. I used to not care about them. But single player RPGs that don't have bullshit involved in them, like you know, Skyrim and Fallout, they're great. Witcher, I mean, I'm okay with that game. And I just like RPGs that have a huge open world. I think open world games in general I like the most because it gives you the most freedom or whatever to do what you want in the game, as opposed to FPS games, which I love, but they give you less choice as to what you can. It's more of a linear experience. You know what I mean? But when I was a kid, my favorite genre was always platformers. Like Sonic and Mario, and those kind of games. I remember my favorite game as a kid was SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom.
Oh
on the
yeah.
PS2. And the SpongeBob SquarePants movie video game. That was another good one. And they had all these different. Remember all those Nickelodeon games that came out, like Fairly Odd Parents, Breaking the Rules, and Jimmy Neutron. And they had what was it? What was that game? That was like a co-op game where they had all the Nickelodeon heroes in them. I forget what it was called, but they had all these different platformers and shit. I thought they were great.
Yeah. Platformers are
fantastic.
I'm also very much into third-person adventure games. Like, I mean, I guess you could say Mass Effect's an RPG, but like games like Uncharted, I like those games, and that's the thing I like about Battlefront, because it's a first-person shooter and a third-person shooter. I just think it really creates so much variety, and I like third-person shooters a lot. I think they're very underrated genre of gaming because people just focus on FPS games. But man, some of my favorite online experiences was with Uncharted 2 Online, and when they made the Uncharted Remastered Collection on the PS4, I was very disappointed that there was no online available for it. There was only single player. And you know the reason why they said there was going to be no multiplayer, no Uncharted 2 or Uncharted 3 multiplayer on the PS4? You know Sony's stupid excuse for that?
What?
We don't want to divide the community on the PS3. So why are you making a remaster then?
Yeah, that's retarded.
Sony, they come up with so much bullshit that it's ridiculous. I remember, man, it's really shifted so much. Like, ever since why am I drawing a blank? That Phil Spencer jumped into the Xbox brand. He's made Xbox a more consumer-friendly brand than the PlayStation brand. Because remember, in 2013, that was definitely the best E3 conference I've ever seen in my life. That was just such a great presentation where you had, E3 2013. Remember when Xbox, Don Matrick, we were talking about it earlier with, you're gonna have always online, no used games, and all this other crap. And then, oh my god, they made such a great presentation, Sony. They pretty much insulted Xbox that entire conference. I don't know if you saw it or remember it.
No, I heard. I mean, all they had to do was walk on stage.
Yeah, it was such a funny thing. They had like a little video that was on YouTube. It was like 30 seconds long, and it was like a tutorial how to play used games on your PS4. And I think it was like Kaz Hirai, the guy that was in charge of PlayStation, and some other guy that worked at Sony, and they were in a commercial, and then it was a tutorial on how to play used games on the PS4, and it was one of them just handing the game to the other guy and being like, "Thanks," and that was the whole tutorial. I thought that was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they had a great presentation. E3's just gone to shit right now, but yeah, those are my favorite genres. I just absolutely, I love, I guess shooters. I guess that's a more, general thing to say. So yeah, those are mine, and your choices are very interesting as well.
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, this is gonna be a last question. Actually, we're gonna do two more questions. Because the last one I think is very important.
Okay.
the second to last question is going to be, from the top of your head, of all time, what are your favorite games?
Okay, a list. A list.
Yeah,
A
just
list.
maybe like if you know, whatever you can come up with at the top of your head.
Okay. So that would be Spider-Man 2 for the GameCube. Legend of Zelda Collector's Edition, because it had all my favorite Legend of Zelda games on there. For the GameCube.
Nice. Nice.
Then came Red Dead Redemption.
Oh, that was a great game.
I love that game. It's one of my favorite of all time.
Me too.
Star Wars Battlefront 2, the original Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Holy shit, we're like the same person. Like, we literally have the same game. I'm not kidding. Besides Zelda, we have like the same games, the same favorite games. Spider-Man 2 was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I had such great and Battlefront 2. Oh my god, that game was great. The space battles, like I just played the EA Battlefront, and man, the space battles, like the controls are just way too clunky. Because like that's the thing about EA games, all their air battles and shit. The controls are just way too like awkward for me to get into it. But in Battlefront 2, the oh my god, we're like the same person, man. Like we should talk more. Like holy shit, we like have the same fucking choices and we have the same opinions. Holy shit, man. Oh yeah, but like I actually like this might come as a shock to you, but have you played the first Battlefront game?
Yes.
On the PS2. Yes. I actually enjoyed that game more than Battlefront 2. I'm gonna tell you why.
Okay.
I thought that the actual maps were better in Battlefront 1 than 2. Because you had how Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2, I think they both had Geonosis in them. And Battlefront 1's version of Geonosis was a better map. And oh man, the Tatooine map where you were fighting it was a 3-way battle between like the clones, the droids, and the Tusken Raiders. That was cool. And the command post and shit. I just think that the maps in that game were so much better. That's just my opinion. Okay. I do think the space battles were cool, but the actual boots on the ground maps I think were better.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what I did, because I kind of agree with that, what I did, when I found out that Star Wars Battlefront 2 was on the PC, the original one was not, okay? Someone made a conversion mod so that the first Star Wars Battlefront and the second Star Wars Battlefront were the same game. I download that mod, right? And you can play online to this day with anyone in the world on the first maps, with like every game mode from the second game.
Is it dead at this point or no?
No.
Really?
No.
Man, when I get a PC, that should be the first thing I get. Because I'll be playing the EA games on the PS4, so I might as well enjoy the original ones on the PC. Maybe you can tell me about it when I do. When I get a PC, you're gonna like help me.
Oh, I know.
Like, through everything.
I know.
Dude,
yeah.
I do this for a living. I build computers every day. I'm actually building one downstairs right now. So yeah, don't worry, it'll happen.
So you're a computer builder?
Uh-huh.
That's what you do?
Uh-huh.
So what do? You sell computers to people who don't want to bother building them? Is that what it is?
No, I work at a company called Falcon Northwest, and essentially what they do is they build the most expensive, best gaming computers. So I work with the cutting edge technology, which is why when people tell me that their console is easily outperforms the newest tech out there, I'm like, God, it's. But what I also do on the side, and I'm starting to do this more regularly, is some of my subscribers ask me, hey, I'd really like to build a computer, but I don't want to F it up. Could I pay you to build it? So I'm like building computers and sending them off to people.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna probably go with pre-built if I get a PC, because I just can't do it. I can't do the whole building my own thing. I don't have the patience for it. I don't think I could. I mean, I probably can do it, but I just don't want to be bothered with it. So I definitely will get a pre-built machine. It's just I gotta do. You just gotta do enough research into it so you don't buy a fucking scam like the Alienware. That was my first PC. I didn't even know that it was bad. I heard it was the best, from people I knew. it's the best computer you can get. It's the most powerful computer on the market. And after 2 years, it was outdated.
Well, here's some inside information I'm going to give you about that. And I'm going to ask you this sincerely because I want you to make the best choice here. When you build a computer, you spend less money and get more than getting a pre-built. I want you to know that.
I mean, I'm sure you do, because if you buy, it makes sense. I knew that economically that makes sense, because if you buy a pre-built computer, the company that builds the computer has to make money. But if you buy the parts, that's just you know, buying the parts. I understand that. It's just I don't know if I'm willing to deal with that whole hassle. It might be worth the extra money. I'm not sure yet.
Well, here's an offer.
I just have to figure it out.
Here's an offer. If there comes a point when you're getting your computer or deciding which one you want to get, and you maybe have a thought of building your own, let me know, and I will do it with you on Skype. I will tell you where everything goes. I've built thousands.
That's an interesting offer.
Think about that.
Yeah, I will. Like, you're gonna be like the first person I'll go to when I go into PC. I was gonna say transition, but I'm never gonna abandon my consoles. I just don't see that happening.
Right.
But just as a different medium, just so I can do everything, because man, I think I'm gonna break the internet if I get a PC. I think that's gonna happen. I don't know about you. If I get a PC, the whole internet's just gonna shit itself.
Yeah, no, yeah, they definitely will. But you know what? I would love to be the guy who helped NoobTubeGamer get into PC gaming. So that'd be cool.
Absolutely, yeah. So any other favorite games before we wrap this up? Like, you said Battlefront, you said Spider-Man, you said Zelda, and you said Red Dead Redemption.
Okay.
Any other games that you think are, your favorite of all time that, worth mentioning?
If I had to pick today, I will mention a few more. I will mention 4 more. That'd be The Binding of Isaac. I have 1,000 hours in that game. That is one of my favorite games of all time, easily. I will choose The Mean Greens because it reminds me of Army Men on the PS2. I don't know if you know of that game.
Yeah, is it that game where it's like toy soldiers fighting or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that game.
Yeah, so it's called The Mean Greens. It's one of my favorite games. Sword with Sauce has easily become one of my favorite games. And then the last one is CSGO.
Wow, very interesting. I'm not familiar with any of those games except for CSGO. I will tell you, though, that one of my favorite PC game of all time, this is an interesting one, is Garry's Mod.
Yes!
I have if you look at my Steam profile, a lot of people noticed I have almost 500 hours into that game. So when people say, "Oh, I never actually play," you never actually played on PC. You just look at my profile. It's I have a lot of hours into that. My favorite game modes, I would say, would be Trouble in Terrorist Town. That was my #1 favorite, and then #2 would probably be Jailbreak.
Jailbreak was so much fun. I thought it was so niche, like nobody knew about it. What about Prop Hunt? Did you not like Prop Hunt?
Never got into it. I never got into Prop Hunt. Never got into Dark RP. I never got into anything else really. I forget what else they had. They had it's a mod. It's like a mod that's a game. So it was literally limitless. Actually, no. I do remember my first time playing Garry's Mod. I was just a total dick. I was playing in sandbox mode. And I forget what it was, but you can build your own vehicle or something through sandbox mode. And I stole someone's vehicle that they built, and I was driving around, and I got banned.
Yeah, I've done that plenty of times myself.
And I've done plenty of Trouble in Terrorist Town, RDMing. I've done plenty of that, and I've done plenty of Trayvon Martin shit in Jailbreak.
Do you know about reverse backhopping?
No.
There's this thing in Sandbox where if you run and then turn around and then start hopping and crouch backwards, you will go at 9,000 miles an hour. This is because the Half-Life engine is always pushing gravity towards your front to make sure you don't surpass a certain speed, but they don't push any gravity onto your back. So you can literally just fly. And if you get good at it, you can dodge bullets and stuff by like reverse back hopping. I do it all the time.
For sure. So yeah, I was gonna ask you something else, but I think we already covered it. The last question I was gonna ask you was gonna be, what would your advice be to a console gamer looking to go into PC? But we kind of had that conversation already, sort of. Um, but I guess, what would you say to someone who's on console that might be interested in PC gaming?
Okay, well, if you're asking for my advice personally, I have been working on a series, and it's almost complete, on computer components explained. And this is a basic tutorial for beginners, and it goes over every component you ever need to put into your PC. I also I talk about the benefits. However, if not for me, go on to www.pcpartpicker.com, and it lets you build a computer online. It tells you the price. It tells you how much power you're going to be using. It tells you exactly what the components are and how they work together. It's a fantastic site for learning, and I wish I had known about it before I started PC gaming.
What, are they like a sponsor for you or something?
No, not at all. God, I wish, but like, no, I'm far too small for them to even care about me.
Man, maybe they should start writing you royalty checks, because man, if people watch this shit and they go onto that website, they'd be like, man, BulletBarry sent me here. They should send you some checks, man.
That would be nice. Other than that, I would go to a channel called Linus Tech Tips. He's a very interesting PC gamer who delves into pretty much every brand new piece of tech, and if you have any questions about any hardware you're ever looking up, he's probably done a video on it. Other than that, it can be a bit toxic sometimes, but asking people on PC Master Race on Reddit on how to begin, you say like, I need a budget, I have like $400 to spend, what's a good PC? And I have seen like the nicest and kindest people sending builds to people. But if you are really struggling, you have a good chance of getting in contact with me through Reddit, my Reddit, as well as my Twitter and my YouTube channel, because I love getting people into, the platform they want to be in. If you wanted to switch to consoles, I'd do the same thing. Like I'd tell you, go for the PlayStation 4 right now, or wait and see if that Xbox One is worth it. I don't think it's going to be, but hey, give it a shot. So yeah, if you can get in touch with me, please do try, because I will not turn you away if you sincerely want to get invested in this. That's my advice.
Yeah, that's pretty good advice. I'm definitely gonna go to you when if and when I decide to go get into PC. Yeah, that's really good advice. I know I said I was gonna end the interview, but there is actually something that people want me to ask you about that just came into my mind. If you don't mind, you answering it.
Okay.
We talked a lot about gaming, but we didn't really talk about your YouTube career, did we? So
yeah.
So I just want to ask you a question. How did you get into YouTube? What inspired you to create your YouTube channel and make videos?
Okay, so this is going to be a little bit of a longer answer, but I'll just jump into it. When I was 17, I came up with this motto I would tell myself. You're either a YouTube personality or you're a YouTube commenter. And I never commented on anybody's videos. I never subscribed to anyone. I thought myself a YouTube content creator, but never made anything. One day I sat in front of my camera and I told stories about my life. It was like vlog kind of bullcrap. And I really enjoyed it. I loved doing it. I shared it at school, and the people hearing my stories. There'd be people at school who were like, "Oh my God, remember a time when you did this?" And I was like, "You weren't there," But it was all so great. I deleted that channel. I didn't like it. I wanted more professionalism, so I started a gaming channel. If you're looking for professionalism, that's definitely not where you go. But I did gaming channel for a year. I called myself B.A. Weedrick Game. And not only was the title of the channel confusing, but the content was just not me. I didn't like who I was. I pretended I was Markiplier or PewDiePie, I wanted to be more.
I can only imagine seeing you try to be them.
Yeah, and I just wanted to be more intellectual. I knew I had things I wanted to say, but I never knew how to say them, especially in real time. So I started writing scripts, and I changed the channel name to BulletBarry, which was my gamer tag back on Xbox. And to be perfectly frank, had I never built my computer, I never would have been the YouTuber who talked so passionately about computers. I never would have pursued the profession I have now and gotten a job building computers every day. And I have a lot of thanks to give. And I know it sounds so strange that this platform opened me up to this, but without it, I don't think I would have been anything on YouTube. And I really can thank my computer for that. And being able to educate people and show them, introduce them to a platform they never even have realized that they loved. It's rewarding, especially to hear people say, Barry, you got me into PC gaming. You're the reason I game on my computer today. Or even your story videos like got me out of depression. I hear that kind of crap and I'm like, oh my God. Like it's just insane. And
Yeah,
I'm glad I got into it. I'm glad I got into it.
Yeah, like even for me personally, like I was never, I never got, the positive reception that you've gotten. I've gotten overwhelmingly negative reception, but I did entertain a lot of people. I did put smiles on people's faces. I was a very entertaining figure, whether intentionally or not. That whole feud I had with, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's a YouTuber that goes by the name the 1316 Killer.
That guy's a douche.
And well, he's playing a character like I did.
Yeah.
But man, we made videos on each other, just ribbing on each other, and it was just so much fun. Remember those videos I made where I just went completely crazy and I had the plastic toy microphone on all my videos? Because how that started was that people said, "Get a better mic, bro. Your mic sucks," and people still say that now. But I was like, "Oh my God!" Like the light bulb just went over my head. Okay, I will get a better mic, and this is going to be like a fucking toy microphone that I'm just gonna use for all my videos. And you guys wanted me to get a better mic, so I got one. It's a fucking Echo mic or whatever it's called. Yeah, Echo mic. It's like a little toy microphone that you talk into. And and now in all of his videos right now, even today, this is like months later, 1316 Killer in all his videos uses a plastic toy microphone.
I was gonna mention that. I've
definitely inspired a lot of people. If there wasn't me, I don't want to sound presumptuous, but I really think that I helped jumpstart Rags' channel. Because if you look at Rags' channel, the first person he ever made a video on, the first ever video he made with the whole, dog gimmick or whatever the hell he's got going on, was on me. So I think I really helped, if there wasn't me, who the hell, would BulletBarry and all these other people make videos on? Because all of you guys made videos on me. BulletBarry, Frengie, Rags, Top Hats, you guys all talked about me. And, although I might have been, I guess, a joke channel, I think I still, impacted a lot of people and in a positive way. So I do think it was a good run, but I think it's time to move on from it. And but it was still a good experience, the whole Console King thing and all that other crap. But yeah. So I'm gonna move on a little bit. I know this interview has been going on for a while, but I think a lot of people would be upset if we didn't talk about your YouTube career, because you're a pretty big channel. You got almost 100,000 subscribers, which is crazy. What would you think is most responsible for your rapid growth over the past year? Because when we first had that debate, you had like maybe 7,000 or 8,000 subscribers. Yeah, something like that. And now you're this like huge channel. I mean, of course there are bigger channels out there that have like, 1 million, 10 million subscribers, but for an average Joe like you, that's a pretty good accomplishment. I'm sure. 80,000 people listen to you and what you have to say. So what do you think it is that you've done that's given you that many subscribers? What do you think?
It could be a lot of things. a few people have suggested that it's my more lenient or open-minded approach. Like, as if you look at other channels kind of like me, they're a little more narrow, one-sided. But I think it is a huge factor that I make console peasant quotes videos. I think that's my most clickbaity series that I have. But I think the way I go about it attracts people who are just like me, who are not so radical or extreme about their platform, but just want everybody to just realize that we're all gamers who just have platforms we play on, and we don't need to be spreading ignorance on the internet.
Absolutely. That, like, even when I was this whole console king, when I did that whole shtick, we still, I never made any negative videos against you, because it was pretty hard to do that, because you've never really done or said anything that would, be easy for me to make a video against you. It just, it was a pretty hard thing to do, and I didn't feel like doing that because there's a difference between Rags and Top Hats and you. Like, I feel like there's a huge distinction between you guys. And I think you offer something very different from them than Fringy and Rags and Top Hats. But since we're talking about them, we've been talking about them a lot. How did this whole partnership between the four of you start?
Oh, that is such a good story. Okay, so I'm sitting there one day, just minding my own business, and I get a tweet from Top Hats and Champagne, a person I've never talked to before, however, helped inspire the channel that I became. I used to watch his Console Peasant Quotes videos all the time, and I started making my channel kind of around, at least a series around that too. So I loved this guy. I thought he was fantastic. I get a tweet directed at me from him that said, "You have defiled the PC Master Race and will be persecuted." And so
That sounds like him.
yeah. So I was like, wait, what the hell? So I click on the link he sent, and it sends me to a Twitch stream of him reviewing my Everything is Person to Person series, and talking about how he hates that series and how it's the worst videos he's ever seen is in his entire life. So I start messaging him up, and I watched it for like a good 20 minutes because I was enjoying it. Like, I liked this guy, I wanted to see what he'd do to like totally crack on me. And he's making this video, or this stream, and he's listening to my video, and I finally sent in a message. I think you're misrepresenting the video a little bit, but don't worry, keep going, right? I'm loving this. And people in the chat went nuts. Oh my god, BulletBarry's here. Oh my god. And so he's like sitting there doing his thing, and he's reading the chat, and he looks over the chat and he's like, "BulletBarry. Oh my god, BulletBarry. Oh my god, you're in here. Hey, BulletBarry, how's it going? Hey, I'm debunking your video." And then after a little bit, he dragged me into his Discord, and we started talking, had a conversation. Well, he made a video about one of my Everything is Person to Person videos, and told me, if you'd like to do a response, please do. To which I did, and I already had the thing written before he had his video out. I let it kind of sit for a couple days, let everybody simmer, and then I released mine, and I made a joke in my video about how, if you honestly think that myself, Fringy, yourself, and Rags are the Four Horsemen of PC gaming, you gotta understand that death and famine are not going to be the same. And when I made that joke, it spurred in Top Hat's mind after we came to our, oh, this was all good fun, but like we don't hate each other kind of thing. What if we started a Four Horsemen of PC Gaming podcast with Frags, Rags, and Fringy, and
before you continue with that, just to clarify for the viewers, so before you did this whole thing with Top Hats, were you friendly with Fringy and Rags beforehand? Like, were you guys friends? Were you guys talking a lot, or was it just random?
I didn't know Fringy at all. I actually didn't know his channel existed until Top Hat said in his video that Fringy, myself, and Rags are the four relevant PC politics channels. So,
Right. I remember him saying that. That was actually fairly recent too.
right.
But what about Rags? How did you know about him?
Rags had contacted me after the first time Top Hats and Champagne had actually contacted me. Top Hats messaged me on Twitter when I was at like 1,300 subscribers and said, "Hey, if you make a video, I'll put it on my channel." So then I put it on his channel, and that's how, like, that was the only interaction Top Hats and I had up until the stream.
Right.
With
But
Rags,
this stream thing was like recent, and that's how all four of you got together.
yes.
Okay.
No. Rags actually at around 8,000 subscribers. He was in a podcast with his buddies, and someone in the chat was like, "Hey, you should check out BulletBarry. He makes videos kind of like you." And he was like, "Okay," and he sent me a message on YouTube, and I replied, and then I was in his next one. And every so often I'd talk to him, and it was okay. So,
Yeah, you know that particular podcast you were talking about. The most viewed episode was the one with me and Rags in the same podcast, and you were in it too. Remember that?
yep.
You have to admit that was really fucking entertaining. That was really entertaining.
I was dying during that. Yes, that was fantastic.
It was very polarizing though. Rags is a very polarizing figure, I will say. It's very intense having a conversation with him, especially if he's your adversary. It was a very interesting experience. I stayed up until, because it might have not been too late for you because you're in the West Coast. I was in the East Coast. I was in that stream till like 4 in the morning, and it was insane.
Yeah.
But that was intense. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, don't worry about Rags being that way when he's your adversary. He's kind of standoffish even when he's your friend. So
yeah, it's just, we've had bad blood for years. In I think a month, it'll be 2 years since our rivalry started. So yeah, it's been a long time. We go way back. I think I've known about Rags before any of you three have. You, Top Hats, or Fringy.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I knew him since he had 100 subscribers. It's crazy how like now he's this huge channel. He's got over almost 250,000. So yeah, it's insane. It's crazy how much people grow in such a fast period of time. I mean, I've been growing at a steady rate. I've been gaining maybe like 10, 15 subscribers a day at most. But man, these guys gain like 1,000 a day, 2,000. It's insane. Like I didn't think that would ever happen. Can you imagine that? Rags used to be a smaller channel than mine. It's crazy to think that. It's insane.
Yeah.
So so what else is there to say? Is there any advice that you would give to? So we talked about advice to console gamers trying to get into PC. What about content creators, people who are trying to create videos? Because you, as well as Rags and even Top Hats and Fringy, have very successful channels and have grown at a very fast rate. So what advice would you give to YouTubers who are trying to get known and are trying to get the amount of subscribers that you guys have?
Okay, so this is going to sound very cliche, but it's exactly how it works. If you're fake, or if you put on a face not being satirical, people are going to see right through it. It's so transparent. Being yourself. There's so many channels on YouTube, you cannot possibly offer anything new except for your personality. Your personality is going to be the only thing that is unique to your channel, and you need to work with that, because if you don't, and everyone just sees the exact same person they're already subscribed to, they're not going to give you the time of day. Be you, and talk about what you're passionate about. Make videos that you're passionate about. And again, I know that sounds so cliche, but it's what works.
Yeah, so what differentiated you, like we've been talking about this, if you were just an arrogant, let's say, cat emoji instead of a dog like Rags is or whatever, and you did the same style that Rags did, you probably wouldn't be as big as you are now, because you guys are literally the same thing.
Right.
I've seen so many YouTubers as of late that made response videos to me that literally use the same exact format that Rags is. They use like an animal with sunglasses, or because Rags has like a dog with sunglasses or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And people are. It's not even like Rags was the first person to do this. He didn't revolutionize this, but he's such a popular YouTuber that he's inspiring people to just copy him. And all these people have very 20 subscribers, 30 subscribers, because and it has nothing to do with their quality, but it's the fact that they're they don't bring anything new to the table. We don't need another Rags. We don't need another Top Hats and Champagne. You're BulletBarry. You make the same style of videos as the other horsemen of PC gaming, but your personality is different. You're much more calm. You're much more much less of a I guess an elitist or whatever. So that what differentiates you, in my personal opinion. So I think that's what people should strive to do, and they need to try be their own person. They can't try to copy someone else, because I mean, say what you want about me, that maybe I've done some questionable things in my YouTube career, but I was a very unique figure. No one else has done what I've done. There have been plenty of troll channels and plenty of channels like mine, like JTech's, but no one's quite done what I've done. I've literally made all these people make videos on me, and it's just insane,
Mm-hmm. I hear you.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty much all the questions I want to ask. Thank you for coming on tonight and answering some questions. It's been much longer than I expected. I'm sorry about that, but I think the viewers hopefully will appreciate it. So yeah, with that said, thank you guys for watching, and see you guys later.
Yep. Thank you guys so much.